on this episode of the Star Wars Time Show. Matt and Nick return to the glassy fields of Mandalore to break down an epic episode of The Mandalorian, while also speculating on who the other spy may be and how the finale will play out. They'll use a concerning post from one of the main cast members to guide their predictions, and unless he's trolling, fans are in for a day of emotional chaos. After Mando Hour, they'll put Bad Batch S2 to bed with a Top Moments retrospective, plus they'll share who will be playing Thrawn's bodyguard in the Ahsoka series. Of course, the show will end with the Question of the Week segment and the latest round of top Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie.
Hey, now everybody, we're here. A little late, but we made it. Who cares, right? This shit's free anyways, so we don't want to hear any bitching. You know, I thought I fixed the stuttering, but that's just not going to be the case. Who cares? We got something going on here. Frames are down to 25, 15. Why does stuff not work after I've tested it? Who gives a shit? I'm sure something's changed, but it doesn't matter. We're here. We're ready to talk some Star Wars. We've got Mando, obviously, to talk about last week's killer episode, and then we're going to set up and talk about the finale that's dropping tomorrow. So we're kind of having like a little pre-watch party here, I guess. I mean, I guess that's one good thing about having the SWTS on Tuesdays before New Star Wars Day. But anyways, like I said, I thought I was going to have a cleaner experience today, but that's not looking to be the case. So who gives a shit? It's going to be all choppy again. I promise you, Nick, I'll show you the video. I had frame rates smoothed out. I had the scrolling text looking good. But something literally is just broken right now. So, oh well. Here we go. Can't wait to... Oh, we got a new feature. Maybe check this out. See if it's working here. For those that come to the live stream. By the way, live stream, if you want to join, 5p East, or as close as we can get, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. But yeah, if it's working, which it's probably not, depending, based on what I'm seeing here, but we can now, or we used to be able to pop up comments, and that's not happening either. So I'm just going to give up today. I can't fucking win. Oh yeah, there you go. I think it's working. I'm just looking on a delay. So there you go. Nova Toymation coming in hot. That should maybe pop up on the screen at some point in time. Maybe when my frame rates fucking I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not going to spend time worrying about it because we got Star Wars to talk about. Nick sold his house. That's a bonus. My basement is flooding, so we're finally getting that fixed, Nick. That's this is my 2023 fuck you for buying a home gift. Anyone that's a homeowner, you know, everyone's like, hey, yo, buy a home, don't rent, renting's for idiots. And then you buy a home and you realize that the costs don't just stop with the purchase and the mortgage. In fact, and Nick, even in a new house, has experienced some of this. You're pretty much on the hook for, at minimum, I'd say $2,000 to $3,000 a year in just random bullshit that'll pop up in the house. And this year's random bullshit is definitely the basement. So those of you on the stream, you see all the shit down here? I'm in the basement. Guess whose little happy ass has to move all his collectibles away from that far wall behind me? Me! Yay! I get to take down all those goddamn Barbies and dust them finally after 3 years and move glass shells. And let me tell you, I'm super excited about the weekend when I'm going to have to put all the shit back. So, you know, Nick, he's lamenting the fact that he's going through some, you know, the red tape of buying and selling a house. And I get it. I try to steer clear of this type of nonsense because to me, Nick, what I'm doing and kind of what you're doing, since you just bought a house and now you're getting another one, to me, it's akin to writing a 10,000 word essay and then having word crash and you have to redo it all again. Like my brain is not equipped to handle that type of shit. You know what I mean? Like the fact of, I got to move all my figures and then I got to move them all back is really giving me a little bit of heartburn right now. I know. It's a white man's problems, but it is what it is.
You can kind of see behind me that some of the stuff on my shelves have been packed up. You can see off in the corner over here, I have 2 boxes stacked up. So the packing has begun. I will say that we will be hiring movers, because if you don't hire movers, it's just so much of a pain in the fucking ass that like it's just not worth it. So we started packing. The close date on our house that we're in now that we are selling is May 9th, and then the estimated close date for our new house is May 15th. So hopefully that gets confirmed soon, because we still don't have confirmation from the builder that's correct. So we'll see. But yeah, it's just a lot of red tape bullshit. Sign this paper. We didn't get this paper. We didn't get this paper. So it's like, oh my God, just let us be done with the paperwork and just move on to the moving part of it.
Which is still going to suck even with movers, but kudos to you. Like I know people my age, Nick's almost 10 years younger than me, but I still have people my age asking like, hey, you want to help move? And it's like, no, hey, go get a fucking job and pay movers to do it. I'm in my 40s. I am no longer helping friends move for free for like some fucking free beer or a dinner. You know what I'm saying? It's movers or bust once you hit a certain level in life, or you're just a freeloading piece of shit.
Yeah, like if you're moving a 1-bedroom apartment and you're in your 20s, fine. But if you're moving a fucking 3-4 bedroom house and you're like trying to get people to help you move for free, it's like, I get it. You don't want to spend the money, but also like spend the money and just save yourself and everybody else the problems. So.
Yeah. So he's not moving far, just he's moving on up, as they like to say, to the east side or the west side. Not the north side or south side. I don't know the song, so who cares? But yeah, that's fun. I wish I could get over the fact that this setup is complete piss, and I know no one else cares, and it really doesn't matter, because really when it comes down to it, you just want to hear the words coming out of our mouth. But someone that spent a little bit of time last week trying to fix this piece of shit, it's a bit demoralizing. You know what I mean, Nick? You tinker with technology and software and customizing stuff. And you know how it is. You put the time in, you research, you put the changes into the system, you test the fucking system, and yet when you go live, it still wants to take a 12-inch dildo and stick it up your ass. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, as I'm with puppy tears looking at my FPS. Still can't even get close to 30, and there's nothing governing it to tell it can't. So fuck off, OBS. Fuck everything. Let's talk about the Mandalorian. All right, let's go. Let's go. That's right. Some of you on the West Coast over there, you're all like, hey, it's Mando finale day today because you guys get to watch it at midnight. But for the rest of us, finale day is Wednesday. So don't worry. We're here to speculate the living shit out of the finale, drop some predictions based on hints we've seen on the interwebs. Of course, we're going to tackle the real Brendan Wayne post that kind of got the Mando internet all abuzz last week with something that I'd imagine someone from Disney tapped him on the shoulder and like, I don't know, man, that's getting a little too, a little too much, especially from you, who is literally credited as a main cast member. Does everyone else realize that Brendan and Lateef are listed right there with Katie and Carl and Giancarlo these days? So, I mean, they are the leads, and it's crazy that he dropped that Instagram story. But we'll talk about it and just try to figure out what does that mean. Hey, screw you, Siri. But first, let's get into that episode. And real quick, I'm going to try not to shit on the stupid fans out there. I feel bad for even calling them stupid. I know we're not supposed to do that, and opinions are opinions. But it's just, Nick, it's like, I don't know, the sect of the fandom, it's so yin and yang. Episode 6, They're ready to light Lucasfilm on fire and themselves. Episode 7. This is the best. Why do we got this all season long? I love the Mandalorian like this. And I just, what is it, Nick? I really do not see how season 3 of The Mandalorian is, as some fans and even big trades are starting to say it now, is subpar or lesser than season 1 and season 2. Everyone's bitching about, it's not doing anything. You're not going anywhere. Din's not doing this. Grogu's not doing that. And I just sit there after an episode like 7 where, let's be real, I mean, it paid off on shit that's been stewing since season 1, let alone some of the little threads that were cooked up in season 3. And you get an episode like 7 that just kind of blows a load all over your face. And you're like, thank you. I knew that was coming. I thank you for rewarding me for my patience. And, I just want to get it out there. A lot of the shit you're seeing about The Mandalorian season 3, it's FUD, okay? Look it up if you don't know the term. It's what people do to try to influence markets. And it's really no different with Star Wars these days. The trolls out there, they're putting out the FUD about Mandalorian. It's losing its luster. No one likes it. No one's watching it anymore. And Nick, just today, you see, I saw an article from Deadline, threw it up in the Discord. If you want to join, we got an open link in our Instagram, that says The Mandalorian, in addition to The Outer Banks, was the most streamed series in March. So as we try to educate you all here, media literacy is important, not just for politics and real news, but even the dumb bullshit that we all sit around and talk about on Tuesday evenings these days, okay? Go out, look through the nonsense. Beware the FUD. If you like Star Wars, it's okay. You're not crazy. Because, Nick, I'll tell you what, sometimes I get done with an episode and, I talk with our friends on Discord. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I love being a Star Wars fan. And then, not that I seek it out, but when you run all the main socials for a Star Wars podcast, it's going to come to you. And I see it. And I start to wonder, like, has my brain just become mush? Do I already have dementia? Do I just sit down here and go, Star Wars, I love it? Or are these people just nuts? And I really think it is the latter, but I'm just, it's okay, people. We're all right. If you're listening to this show, you're in the right fucking place to not hate yourself for enjoying modern Star Wars, okay? So let's let my friend Nick here. What did you think about episode 7? According to some fans, the only good episode to release this season.
It was definitely a good episode. I mean, it sets up the finale pretty well. Finally see the return of Moff Gideon, and the title of the episode clearly was Spies, and we only got one really clear spy reference. Obviously, that was in the beginning of the episode on Coruscant with Kane. But I think that everybody's kind of tracked who the second spy might be, especially given the way that Mr. Gideon's outfit looked when he got to the when he trapped the Mandalorians at the end of the episode. So I think that people are tracking now that the armor is also probably a spy. So yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of the episode. I thought that it did pretty well of like bringing some of those long storyline threads either to a close or, obviously to a near close. But yeah, I was a big fan. I enjoyed the episode overall for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I kind of gave away my appreciation of the episode there during my FUD speech, but it was great. But that's because of all the little building blocks that came before it. And I think the one sect of the fandom, they just want the flashy shit, right? They want the guys out there with their dick and balls kicking ass, the women in the kitchen, fucking blasters, swords, wrestling, you name it. If they don't get that, it's a failure. But I still contend that an episode like 7, The Spies, does not pop without all the episodes and little moments before it. I mean, it's just it really was the release all the build up for Bo-Katan, the Children of the Watch, Din's adherence to the Creed and their philosophy versus the Night Owl's philosophy, or the Bloodline Mandos as we designated them last week. And it just, as a fan of the lore, I loved all that stuff. I love starting with the Shadow Council and finally getting just, here's an answer. Here's an answer. Here's an answer. Oh, you guys fucking around with the cloning shit? Well, yeah, this is what they're doing. No, you guys been wondering about Gideon, and is Thrawn involved in any of these conversations? Well, bing, bang, boom, and here's a little fucking First Order for you. So you get all that right off the bat. It's a beautiful thing. Obviously the sacrifice at the end, that doesn't hit as hard without the journey of Paz and Din over 3 seasons and this season itself. So I really enjoyed it, as a lot of fans did. I mean, it was a great episode, start to finish. Good run time. As I said, to me, it was getting all those lore reveals or confirmations of some of the speculations we've been going on. Like, what the hell is going on in the Mandalorian from a global scale? You know what I mean? What's going on? We understand the little stories with Din and Grogu and Bo, but what's going on with the big picture? New Republic, Remnant, Mandos. And now we know. It's all laid out there in front of us. It's all clear what's been going on. We now know why Bo-Katan got attacked when she helped in on Mandalore. It's because fucking Gideon's had a goddamn base on the planet for probably decades. Beautiful stuff. Okay, so great episode, and I think it is going to set up for a killer finale. We just got to know who's getting killed based on Brendan Wayne's story posts, but also there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in what's being reported as a 39-minute finale, Nick. So,
pretty short.
Lots of stuff going on there. Short. So yeah, good stuff. But to me, it's not like I wasn't like some fans going, "Oh, thank God we finally got the Mandalorian that I've been missing." That episodes like that, they work that way because of the serialized approach and the little exposures of story beats throughout the first season, second season, obviously season 3. So everyone get over yourselves, but I fear there's been enough negative air out there that, as Nick has been warning everybody, Disney's going to make decisions on this shit now. Thank God the Nielsen ratings are coming in all right, because I think that means more than just idiots on socials, right, Nick? I mean, that's more tangible data for decision makers. But you can, I mean, it, like common folk out there, if they hear the FUD, they'll be like, oh yeah, fuck it. Doesn't sound like it's anything worth my time. And like Nick's been saying with Disney and their money problems, more and more the common folk that peel off, the less and less of this stuff us nuts are going to get.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how, we'll see how Disney reacts to everything. I mean, they don't really care. Like, what they care about is eyes on screens. Obviously, they have the numbers behind that, and they make decisions based off of that. That's, so knowing that The Mandalorian was one of the top 2 most watched shows or streamed shows in March is good for the franchise. Hopefully that keeps up through the finale in April, and we'll see what goes on from there. But I mean, like, that's why decisions like Bad Batch season 3 is the last season of Bad Batch gets made, because people likely weren't watching Bad Batch. And then they shut it down, and then you either don't get something to fill that slot, or you get a new animation project that tries to pull in more viewers. But yeah, I mean, I haven't had an issue with the Mandalorian this season. I know that a lot of people have, but everybody's got issues with everything now. So it really,
you're right, dude. It's like, fuck me, It's like, you can't, like, if we leave these little bubbles we've created for ourselves these days, you're definitely going to step on a landmine that you're just going to be like, why do humans even exist anymore? You know what I mean? Like, look, let's just end it. If there is this thing out there that used to fucking ruin the world and start over, please, now is the time to do it. I promise you, humans are doing way worse shit now than they were doing to each other thousands of years ago when you used to zap the planet. Please. All right, we got a comment up there from Bat. Yeah, I'm from a collector standpoint, the Praetorian Guards we got at the end would definitely make a nice hot toy, but I don't think they ever did for TLJ Praetorian Guard hot toys. So who knows? But obviously we'll talk about them and their ties to the sequel trilogy. Maybe that's the other thing. You know, maybe the haters of the sequels, now that they are realizing that, and again, this just shows you how fucking crazy they are, and they're probably QAnon followers, but there is a large group of people who are like, oh yeah, Mandalorian, Dave and John and Dave, they're essentially going to retcon the sequels. But people that actually have a brain, we've known from day one that no, they're going to do what Clone Wars did for the prequels, and they're actually going to fill in some gaps and try to band-aid some of the more odd narrative choices that were made in those three movies. And we're getting it right now. We got it in this episode. I memean, we can debate semantics when it comes up, but we all know who the fucking necromancer is, and it isn't Snoke, okay? Like, some of you people, you got to learn. You got to learn how words work, all right? But we'll get there. Okay. So, let's get into the patented SWTS deep dive of this episode. We got Haas that I need Nick to kind of put my mind to ease over. We've got our top moments. Then we're going to have all the Easter eggs references. And we did have some cameos this episode to piss people off too. But luckily they weren't as, I guess, prominent to people this time around. So, kind of getting into it, Nick, we'll go with top moments. I do have a ton of Ha, because there really is a lot of questions going into the finale that I'd like you to kind of help me with here. But let's see if they pop up. Anyways, we'll get into the top moments. Let me shift up to everyone's preferred big screen view for the breakdown here. All right, 1 second. Of course, stuff isn't working. Bear with me. It's just one of those days, but that's why you people pay to show up here on the Star Wars Time Show. All right. So, Nick, to me, the first top moment, without a doubt, kind of kicked off the episode, and that was the Shadow Council. I mean, our boy Giancarlo, I mean, what, almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, essentially outed this without saying the Shadow Council, but he did. And that's what I've been saying. If you people do listen to the show and can process our crappy grasp of the English language, a lot of stuff we talk about, so it's cool to see it come into fruition. But you gotta remember, Esposito, a long time ago, was like, listen, Moff Gideon, he might be out there trying to, convince some of these other warlords that his way is the way, and here we go. That's exactly what this scene gave us, right? I mean, you can see that while Gideon is playing friends with the council, he's clearly hiding stuff from them. He lied to them right to their faces that he wasn't doing anything with Pershing and cloning on Navarro. And he's no fan of the Thrawn plan. He doesn't really seem to be a fan of Brendel Hux and what they're doing with what we know is going to be the First Order. Gideon clearly has his own idea on how to return the Empire to glory, and that's what we've seen him working on these past 2 seasons, and now we kind of get it in our face. This is what I'm doing on Mandalore, and I'm building a battalion of Jedi clone Mandalorians, but I'm not going to tell any of you guys. So if anything, Nick, you had to love. It's just that the Empire scum and villainy is still going strong, even with the Remnant, even with them trying to rebuild their forces. They all still have their own path to power and their own agenda. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing as when there were, a ton of Sith out there, because when there was a ton of Sith out there, nobody could ever agree on anything. They just killed each other to say that they were in power instead of the last person was in power, which is like, it's why Star Wars is a very cyclical type of property where it's like good rises up, or bad rises up, good defeats it, good sticks around for a little while, bad rises up, it sticks around for a little while, and then it just kind of keeps going in a circle. It's because the bad guys while they are powerful and they do assert their dominance in a better way in the galaxy than the good people do, can't help but fight each other. Like it doesn't matter who is in charge or what's going on. Like they can't help but fight each other. And it's kind, you're kind of seeing the same thing here, where it's like Moff Gideon is clearly like, look, I'm the person who should be in charge. If you just let me do what I want to do, we'll have taken over the galaxy in 3 months. And everybody else has their own agenda. Hux, who is almost assuredly Hux's father.
Oh, it is. By the way, I did learn in my research, Nick, that Hux is a bastard. Brendel, the guy in Mandalorian on the Shadow Council, did not father Hux with his wife. So Armitage is a steady Jon Snow.
Nice. So yeah, Hux has his thing where he's clearly doing all of the work to resurrect Palpatine and his decrepit Palpatine body. You have the other guy who's like, "Hey man, if we just wait for Thrawn to get here,
dude, he's a
we'll
fucking
be
Thrawn
good."
fanboy. He's like, "I love Thrawn. He's the fucking man."
Fanboy alert! Fanboy alert!
You have essentially, like all of these people in the Shadow Council that are all working towards their own ends, but they're still working together.
Yeah,
it's why nothing can ever like that. You never really have like a cohesive bad side until one of the people who is actually, like one of the people's plans actually comes to fruition. So, and then they can claim that they are the ones who are now the leaders of the bad person organization for this particular time.
It really is. I mean, it's not, obviously it's not as comical as what you got in Austin Powers, but it kind of reminded me of like Dr. Evil's meeting at the table, like, ooh, oh, 1 million. Yeah, well, hey, 1 million's not enough. You gotta up that a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta. And then you got one guy who wants to do. He's just like, if we put all our money in Starbucks, we'll be rich, and then we can take over. You got one guy who wants to hijack a nuclear warhead and then take over. You got one guy who wants to fucking do something else, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing that you see in all of those kinds of, like Austin Powers, 007, all this kind of shit. But it was cool to finally see that kind of played out and come to fruition. It's like while there are the separate warlords who are doing their own things, they are at least trying to coordinate in some form or fashion.
Yeah, they don't mess with anyone else's sector either, right? According to Gideon, they're good. It is like the one guy. I mean, they didn't even name half the council. The only council names we know are Gideon, Palian, and Hux. But yeah, the other ones, the one guy, you can tell he's just like a warmonger. He's like, yeah, when they're talking about killing shit or more resources. But no, it was just a great scene to watch the remnant empire kind of bumblefuck their way through a coordinated plan. But sadly, we know the New Republic bumblefucks things even more, that part of the Shadow Council actually does come to fruition and the First Order does rise. And obviously, from what we know, just based on established canon and timelines, Nick, to me, it's like Gideon's plan of the Jedi Mando army and him becoming boss, that's going to be resolved in The Mandalorian. The Thrawn plan will be the next big one, resolved in Filoni's movie. And then from the ashes of Thrawn's failure will be the rise of the First Order, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it has to go. I mean, because I don't think, even though Hux and Palian seem to be together, like they're the ones getting all the resources and kind of the attention right now because of, obviously, Project Necromancer and the Thrawn plot. But it doesn't sound to me like Thrawn is attached to the idea of the First Order. Thrawn's kind of his own thing to be the new leader, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he would be connected to the First Order. I do think it would be more like what he would try to do is more of like a resurrection of the Empire as it was. So I think that
holy shit.
When this fails, because obviously we know it fails, it will be like kind of out of the ashes of that the First Order rises, kind of like you said.
Well, we just said it. All three of these plans like their owners, their leaders, they're all still working on them. So it's like, even though they're not coordinating it, it's like they all kind of have a backup built in. So yeah, I think when the Thrawn thing fails, that's when Hux and his gang's like, all right, well, shit, we're down to option 3. It's first order time, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, it's like, we tried this one, didn't work. We tried this one, didn't work. Let's try this one, see if this one works. Yeah. It's really just kind of like a fake it till you make it situation. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we finally got Thrawn brought into the fold in a meaningful way in The Mandalorian, because obviously we know that that's going to be a big part of the Ahsoka series. Is like what's going on with Thrawn, what's going on with Ezra. Now that Thrawn's back, where's Ezra? So I'm happy that they didn't wait until after Ahsoka to fold in Thrawn in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, shit, he'll probably be ominous until the stinger, but, we got the name drop right there, and obviously the captain, and I don't know if this is in Nick's Legends wheelhouse, but Captain Paleon is like the guy in Heir to the Empire. Like, he really is Thrawn's right-hand captain, whatever, in the book. So it makes sense that he was the one stumping so hard for Thrawn. I mean, that is a direct pull from what is now considered Legends canon. And it does, Nick, it seems, and I'm not an Heir to the Empire guy. Can't read, fuck it, takes too long, doesn't count anymore, so who cares? But, from the Ahsoka trailer and then getting, Paleon here, it does seem like, Dave and John are repurposing some of Zahn's Heir to the Empire narratives. And who knows, maybe we'll see even more pop up once Ahsoka drops, and obviously Mando S4 and then the whole movie event. But that stuff, I mean, Legends, so. I think some of us thought it was dead forever, but they are kind of cherry picking, right?
Yeah, they're taking what they want and reincorporating it, which is good. I mean, especially in this instance where you have so much time to fill between like the currently running stuff, like the Mandalorian timeline and the sequel trilogy timeline. The problem is like, now how this has to end. That whatever happens with Thrawn is gonna like rise up and then fall apart in the next X amount of years. And really, what now your question is really like, how long does it last? Like, does the Thrawn stuff just get immediately kind of like shucked to the side? Like they're like, oh yeah, Thrawn's coming, and then 3 months later, well, Thrawn tried to come in, and then we really knocked him out. Like, it really does kind of suck for those people who were really hoping for like an extended like Thrawn presence in this galaxy, because now you do just kind of have like a time limit on it. So we'll see. I mean, they it would have been more like, it would have been better for me. Like I thought it would have been cooler if like, if that was kind of the focus of the sequel trilogy to start with, is like, oh, let's just dive right into Heir to the Empire, and then like explore that timeline a little bit more. But we did do a pretty big jump, and now we have to kind of like fill in the middle side of it, like
that's where we're at, man. So we're talking, I think it's 38 years from Jedi to TFA that's technically open.
Yeah. So now we're in like the 30-year period of time. I mean, the Thrawn thing is going to be interesting. Like I do hope that they drag it out a little bit more than just like, he got here and less than a year later it's done. Like, I really do hope that they like make this era last a little bit longer. I don't think that they will. I think that it will end up being like he's back and then he's gone. All right.
Hey, I got a comment for you. Be mad. Anyone see the through line between Rebels and Remnant in their secrecy? I think he left a comment on YouTube about this. Does that make sense to you, what he's saying? You know how like the Rebels had to be secret, hiding in bases, and you would have like the Saw factions that are a little crazier than the other factions. So we're kind of seeing the Remnant right now as these rebel factions, but obviously a bit more organized and a bit more stocked in terms of a war machine. They're not as ragtag, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see what he's talking about there, but like, I don't really draw a through line to it. It's just like a necessity of being the underdog faction.
Not the
you
one
know,
in
like,
charge. Yes.
Yeah, you know, like it's the same. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that the rebels did, but it's also because the rebels had to do that, because if they were openly organizing, then it would have been way easier to stomp them out because they have no forces. It's the same thing that's happening here. So I don't think it's like they're taking a page out of like the rebels playbook. I think it's just like when you are a clandestine faction that is trying to be secretive so you don't get immediately wiped out by the giant government that is now taken over most of the galaxy, that's just what you have to do. So I don't think it's like we're taking rebel tactics. It's just like if we were to openly announce ourselves, we would be dead in a week.
I mean, there's definitely similarities, if anything else. I mean, it's like you said, if you're not in charge, you gotta figure out creative ways to organize, as we like to say. Hey, you know what? Since we're on this scene, we might as well dive into some of the ha's here. You know, I always like being right, so I loved getting the confirmation that Gideon was working with the pirates. Okay, so told you. I already talked about how Gideon clearly is no Thrawn fan. I mean, he almost like mocks Paleon, right? There is a hint of like, oh yeah, the big Grand Admiral Thrawn. When the hell's he coming? I'm super spy. I don't hear shit. Shut the fuck up. I'm the best. And clearly that's why he fried Pershing, so the other people didn't know what his little goals are. So we got those answers as well. But you know what I really want to dig into here, Nick, is Project Necromancer. And you know, I immediately went to Necromancer, Lord of the Rings, beaten spirit, dark spirit that's not quite dead, trying to return. Who's that in Star Wars? It's Palpatine. And then obviously there's a lot of people out there like, well, it's probably Snoke. And I'm just like, okay, but why was Snoke created? Why was Snoke cloned to usher the return of Palpatine? What did Snoke end up becoming? A fucking puppet for Palpatine? What Brendel Hux was saying, he literally says, we have a plan in place for new leadership. It was never Palpatine's plan to have some random person run the Empire again. It was always for him, right? He says it so much in Tross. Yeah. Now it's time for the final order. Blah blah blue. He was a puppet. I was in your voice. I was in your head as Vader. I mean, Palpatine controlled all of this. Go look it up. Okay, Snoke is a Strandcast. He is not a direct clone of Palpatine. That is true. But he is not the Necromancer. He is not Project Necromancer. He is the first steps of it. Yes, Snoke was created by Palpatine with the hopes that he could get his essence into his vessel, but he couldn't. So he let Snoke kind of go out there and be his proxy for all that time. Then, when the timing was right and he felt Kylo had assumed the mantle, that's when he revealed himself as the true puppeteer of Snoke. So yes, with semantics, Project Necromancer, in my opinion, is Palpatine's return. Am I crazy, Nick? Where did you go with Project Necromancer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty clear to me. I think that, like, kind of like you said, Snoke is just like a step in Project Necromancer. I mean, just take the fucking word. Necromancer means bringing somebody back from the fucking dead.
I don't know.
Like, Snoke's not a Snoke is not a person. He wasn't brought back from the dead. He was created in a lab. Yeah. Like, that was, if anything, it was so clear that it was Palpatine that I'm confused that people didn't understand that they were talking about Palpatine.
Hey, dude. Welcome to the Star Wars internet. And the only reason I know this is something I didn't announce yet, and which is crazy because usually when I have a chance to toot my horn, I'm going to toot that motherfucker. But for the first time since breaking away from EB and becoming the SWTS, I had a piece of content go viral. Sadly, it was on TikTok, so it does absolutely nothing for this show, the channel, but it felt good. But this is where I was getting a lot of those comments like, hey, you know, it's Snoke. I'm like, what the fuck movies were you guys watching? Like, why is it so hard for people to understand Star Wars? It's not fucking rocket science. It really isn't. But no, hey, Project Necromancer has to be Snoke. Has to be Snoke. I'm like, okay, if you really want to get down like semantically, sure. But it's because that's how it went. That's how the plan to bring Palpatine back had to go. They couldn't get the cloning right. They never did. Remember? The only reason he's able to return to form is because he sucks the jizz out of Rey and Kylo. That's it. That decrepit clone body was zombified. It was falling apart. Nothing could contain his essence until the dyad showed up. And as fucking dumb as all that shit sounds, I mean, it really is. It just Tross is bad storytelling, plain and simple. That's why we're getting this type of shit, to clean it up, to make it make more sense. But yeah, sometimes it's like, guys, they walk it out there for you. Like Nick said, just look what necromancer is, what its definition is. It's not clone vessel.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess that like people don't understand that like Thrawn, or that like Snoke was a part of the plan, yes. But I thought that was pretty clear when you're walking through Exegol on Tross and you see like a bunch of fucking Snoke bodies just hanging out.
Backups. I mean, listen, I get it, man. Tross and what it did with Snoke explanation and somehow Palpatine's returned, it's hot garbage if you really write it down on paper and think about it. It's a bunch of bullshit. Okay. Yes, Palpatine, hands down, one of the greatest villains of all time, but he had his deal. His death in Vader's redemption, that was great. That all got blown up for this dumb fucking idea to like, oh, hey, by the way, we made a sequel trilogy, but we didn't check notes between the 3 films, so yeah, they're a little disjointed and chaotic, and we're just going to wrap everything up with a nice bow on the end and make everyone a fucking Skywalker or a Palpatine. And, you know, it gets messy. So I guess we can't blame the slower people out there that they haven't been able to follow that. Because Snoke, he went from this ominous cool guy to, yeah, he's just a fucking dickhead that Palpatine cooked up in a tube on Exegol and would kind of use him as a puppet. Oh, okay. That's great. Neat. Yeah, Project Necromancer in effect, bitch. All right, good. I'm glad you're there. And again, that's LOTR, right? I mean, Sauron was referred to as the necromancer of Mirkwood, right? I mean, that's what he fucking was. Yeah. You get to see it in The Hobbit, I believe. Doesn't Gandalf and Galadriel go and confront the spirit? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they eventually drive it out of Mirkwood, and that's what forces him back into Mordor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's the same thing. I mean, it's literally, I'm not saying they're copying off of it, but I mean, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a dark magical spirit that was beaten by forces of good, but is allowed to fester, is they're trying to bring him back. I mean, it's 100% Sauron.
He's trying to come back.
100%.
Yeah, so it's about as close as you can get without like directly ripping it off.
This is like, what the fuck? Hey, look at that, Sir Dora. Congrats on the 100K TikTok. Yes, thank you, thank you,
nice.
thank you. I'll throw this one up from props too. Finally getting the respect they deserve. I don't know about that, but last week was all right. I think, you know, if that happened on YouTube, we'd be cooking with some fucking gas right now, people, because on TikTok, I think it added like 300 or 400 new followers. I saw all our other TikToks started getting more views. It's funny how that shit happens. And here's the crazy part, Nick. Was the video any different than what I've been doing since 2018? Absolutely not. The same fucking shitty shorts that I've been sharing all season long. Some reason this one popped and was deemed worthy and off to the races. Now, that'll never happen again, but it was nice. Gave me some juice, so I guess I'll keep doing it for the time being. I needed that little win. All right, I think I've hit the things I want to talk about here from the Shadow Council. Yeah, we discussed that Hex and Pelion, they're in leagues, more than likely forming the First Order, especially from the Hux angle. Hux seems to kind of be the one in charge of the cloning stuff as well, made very clear by Gideon. And we identified the captain as, you know, he's Thrawn's #1 fanboy. There's no doubt about that. All right, good stuff there from the Shadow Council. Yeah, no. There we go. That deserves a pop up there. Somehow this video went viral. That's exactly how it feels. It's as wonky and as shitty as Poe's line. That's how our content going viral feels to me. Good one there, Nova. All right, let's go ahead and continue on with the top moments, because there was 5 of them there. We got the Shadow Council there. The next one, honestly, for me, my friends, it was more for just a visual treat. It's not often in live action Star Wars that we get to see full fleets in low orbit, or hell, even full fleets in orbit. You really don't get it. I mean, you get that clusterfuck at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a cool moment because they rely on John Williams' music, but if you look at it, it's a fucking nightmare of ships everywhere. I don't know how these assholes weren't just running into each other left and right. You know, it's like
good pilots.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Yeah, Wedge was there in Lando, so everything was good. But in terms of, you know what I mean, Nick, like seeing an actual fleet with the capital ship, its escorts, its fighters, seeing them kind of come into port. I'm talking about the Mando fleet arriving. I loved the visuals of that. I love, you know, the whole town of Navarro just kind of stopping their cleanup, looking up. You see that cruiser, the light cruiser coming past. They got that kick-ass fucking decal on the bottom. I think Nick has one on his arm. You got the Fang fighters, the gauntlets. You had the Gozanti class freighters were in there. It was just fucking cool looking, man. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I can enjoy an episode or a scene if it just looks fucking rad. And that's what we're talking about here with the arrival of the Mando fleet on Navarro. Just great visuals. Yeah. And it just kind of shows like their power now, at least their naval power.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really cool scene to see play out. I wonder how long it took them to get that fucking mythosaur on the bottom of the light cruiser, because that's pretty big.
You wonder, like, did they get out there on their jetpacks and fucking roller paint that, or do you think it's just like a you know, kind of where you can go and get a decal or something painted like on your car, and there's and it's there, you know, it's like
decal just kind of slapped on that thing. I thought it was cool. I like how, like you said, it kind of cast the shadow over the whole city and how everybody was kind of freaking out. But yeah, it was a very cool scene, because it's, I think, the only other time that we've seen like a large Imperial vessel hanging in orbit, like in the actual like planetary atmosphere, was in Rogue One when they were removing the Kyber from Jeddah.
And that was just, you know, that was just a Star Destroyer. So, but I mean, really, Nick, it kind of continued. I also loved how Axe calls them the primitive Mandalorians, the children of the Watch. Yeah. You know, how they kind of took to the arrival of the fleet. You know, I like the music they chose. Kind of, it was very Rogue One Jeddah-like music, like that. Bang, dang, bang, dang. And they're all looking up, and then obviously the lineup, the gang lineup, if you will. I mean, it reminded me of Gangs of New York. You had, you know, the one gang and the other gang, they lined up, they size each other up. Hell, Big Boy even did like fucking double fists together in front of his belly, right? Paz is like, boo. It is, you know, they're feeling each other out. But I think these moments, Nick, you know, you had Bo and her like take their helmets off, and then the primitives keep it on. It goes to show you how much tension there still is between different Mandalorian factions, and that they're still, even though they just brought the children to fleet, the children are still like, hey, fuck you guys. You know, we're the children of the Watch. We do the right way. Screw you guys, and, you know, taking your helmets off and your coordinated blue suits. We are the Watch. So it was cool to kind of see their first interaction that, you know, kind of built up over this episode and then exploded there on that Waterworld craft between Axe and Paz.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see that. I mean, there was definitely tension, but I also feel like at this point, both sides know that, like, you know, if we don't work together, we just go back to doing what we were doing before, and that wasn't good. You had one faction that was literally like living out of caves, and you had another faction that was just taking any job that they could for money just to survive. So I feel like even though like there was tension, and obviously that tension kind of came to a head when Axe and Paz had their little tiff. They both know that like at the end of the day they need each other. So
Right.
I don't expect there to be many other like little fights between these two factions for much longer. So.
Well, we definitely know Paz isn't fighting anybody anytime soon. So I think him and Axe, their beef is settled. it's done at this point in time. Hey, you know what? I got a screen of the armor up right now, so I want to dive into another here. And listen, the episode was titled "The Spies." Kane clearly is one of them. Who is the other one? Here are some notes, and then we'll kind of get into it. This could just be maybe too basic for people, but remember, Gideon is a spy by trade. I mean, he talks about it so much in this episode. I mean, literally says, "Hey, fuck Thrawn. I'm former ISB. I know how spycraft works. I haven't heard shit about him. You're a liar." So, Gideon. Was he the other spy? Who knows? Probably not. Doesn't make that much sense. The armorer. Okay, listen. So many red flags for the armorer, Nick, but that's why I'm almost thinking they're making it so obvious that it can't be her. All right, hear me out.
Yeah.
The helmet itself is like, okay, we've been talking about that for the past 3 years. Okay, so you got the helmet. The fact that she purposely leaves before they go to the Great Forge. Okay, there's another red flag. The fact that she wanted Bo to gather all the Mandalorians together so they could retake Mandalore and get them all in one spot. There's another red flag. She's literally leaving to go to the fleet. So, yes. Is the armor a spy, or could she be a spy? 100% But the more I keep thinking about it, and the more we are riffing on it in our Discord, because we kind of, there's a few of us nuts on Wednesdays. We're in Discord all day just riffing on our thoughts. And the more they're like, yeah, she did this and that. And I'm like, they're making it so obvious that she could be the one that ratted them out and sold them out. So Gideon knew that they were coming. Because let's be real. Yes, he had a base on Mandalore for probably ever since the Empire took Mandalore. But how did he know exactly where they were going to go, how to lay the trap, how to draw them back into the inner workings of the base? Like, he had to have had an inside person, I think. Don't you? Or do you think he just knew it all because he is Gideon? He already knew what they were doing based on Kane's report, so he kind of scouted the situation. Was like, you know what? If they come here, they're going to go to the Forge. I'm going to set my trap. Or do you think he was tipped?
He was definitely tipped off that they were going to be there, because he would have unless he literally, your other option is that your spies are the Mandalorians that they found. Okay,
well there you go. I had two other options, because I forget who it was. I'll give you credit if you remind me in the chat. But I think the Mando nomads, as we're calling them, great possibility to be the rats. Think about it. They never left. Yet they didn't know the Empire had a fucking well-manned base underneath their planet, right next to one of their most iconic landmarks for Mandalore, the Great Forge. They never saw the Empire coming and going. They didn't see the TIE bombers getting delivered there when Gideon just fucking asked for them. Come on. So yeah, and then the other option to me, Nick, would be someone from Bo's faction. Axe does leave too before the actual trap is sprung. Remember, he's the one that's like, I'm going to go for help, and he kind of shoots out. I've heard some people question Casca, but I'm with you. You have to say the armor because it's so goddamn obvious. Gideon. Yeah,
I think it's just like the aesthetic matches it. The fact that she removed herself from everything right before all of the stuff went down. She's also it was a very ominous shot of her solo heading towards the fleet. That it's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in there that seems squirrely around her. Of course,
but don't you, as a seasoned watcher of fictional television, doesn't that to you just say there's no way she's going to be the spy? They're just making it too goddamn obvious. Or is that their trick? Hey, we're going to make it so obvious that idiots like Matt will talk themselves out of it, and then we'll give it to them anyways. You know what I mean?
I try not to overthink anything anymore, especially around Star Wars, because I think more often than not, like the best storylines like are kind of obvious in the Star Wars universe. I think with the armor, like there's a lot of signals. Would it be too obvious if they would I be upset if they were like, oh yeah, she was the spy? No.
But
even if it is obvious.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm getting into TV rules, same thing where no one's dead unless you literally see their body. I feel like the signs are so obvious for something that the writers would want to kind of keep a mystery that she just can't be it. But you are right. If she is it, I'd be like, well, yeah, no shit. We told you that before the season started. I mean, I actually went back, Nick, and reviewed our wants and predictions, and we're doing all right. We're not batting 1,000, but we're hitting up there. We'd be slugging maybe in the 3s, high 4%. So I'll take that.
And I think also with the armor stuff too, it's like if she really was as dedicated to the fucking creed as she said she was, do you really think that she would just be like, oh yeah, I mean, like it's fine that let's bring all these people in that we clearly hate.
You are preaching to the choir. I believe you 100%, and you are right. There's so many red flags for this character for being a piece of shit. I mean, the other thing, like SW Props is saying, how did Gideon know Bo had the Darksaber again? The other thing, you got to remember, how would he know the fucking fleet was there? You can't communicate to space from the surface of Mandalore yet. And they make that purposeful when Armor's leaving. You can literally see when the console flickers back on once she gets through the atmosphere and is back in the space. So he definitely was tipped off. And listen, we're all right. All of us, anyone. I think my daughter was like, yeah, the Armorer could be a bad guy. So listen, that's established. I like the Nomad angle, and I could see Axe being a cunt. I mean, he's been a cunt since Bo's been trying to get the saber back. You can tell he's not as gung ho about this partnership. He just, he's a merc. You can't trust these motherfuckers. Yeah. I mean, if he gets a payoff, what did Casca say 2 episodes ago? Yeah, when the Quarren's like, I thought Mandalorians were honorable, and she's like, hey, if you got enough credit. So, I mean, we could be talking about some of Bo's old faction who have turned bad just to make some cash. It could definitely be those. I'll just put it this way: like, what's a cooler story? For me, a cooler story is the person that an entire faction of Mandalorians have put their trust in and put their belief in the Armorer has actually been essentially leading them to their own slaughter in a very long game-esque play with by working with Moff Gideon and the Imperial Remnant. I think a less cool story is the guy who's an asshole is an asshole. The guy who seems like a dick is a dick. Whoa. Watch out, hey, man, listen, I am not going to disagree with a damn thing you said. It's just, I've been doing mental gymnastics with the Armorer after last week. Oh, by the way, did you see our exclusive hit and I fucked it up? I went back. So I don't know if anyone saw it, but out of the blue, Armorer's wearing a jetpack in episode 7. Like, she's just fucking wearing it, like we told you she'd be getting. But after I saw that, I hit up my contact. I'm like, yo, what happened? Like, are we fucked now? Am I going to look like an asswipe? And they're like, well, I mean, she got the jetpack and really what happened, the scene got cut, yada, yada, yada. And I go back and review the notes from the initial leak reported to me. I completely fucked it. Completely fucked it up. It's on me, not the contact, where I said she was going to get her pack and guns at the ceremony that we've heard may happen in this finale. That's not the case. We were supposed to see her with her full kit attacking the pirates, but that got wiped. So she still did get a pack. So we're confirmed on that. I just fucked up the order of events. So gotcha. I'm still confident that the other part of that leak's going to hit with the celebration, the foundlings, and Ragnar getting armor, which sounds even more like it's going to happen after the final moments of Episode 7, where Big Papa took one for the team. But you are right, man. I mean, the armor would be narrative-wise the best. It probably wouldn't be the most shocking because of how obvious they're making it, but in terms of story and what she supposedly has stood for and what she's been trying to do with Mandalorians, yeah, awful. I mean, she would be worse than Moff Gideon at that point in time, like more evil than Moff Gideon.
Like if you think about it from Moff Gideon's perspective, what did he tell the Shadow Council? Like when it was revealed that the Mandalorians were the ones that helped out Grief Karga, he says, "Oh, I thought these factions, hated each other, blah blah blah, all this stuff." Right. And like what is best for the Imperial remnant? When it comes to Mandalorians, exactly what the armor was doing, keeping them underground, telling them to never leave, don't show yourself, right. Don't make any deals of yourself out in public, because if you do, then we'll get hunted down again. But all that does is help the remnant, because the Mandalorians are the faction most suited to take them out. I mean, dude, so they finally like keeping them in the fucking bunker.
The Shadow Council itself finally confirmed what we've been telling everyone. I mean, they say it. You see it when Gideon's like, listen, Mandalorians are reuniting and they're probably going to retake Mandalore. That's when Hux and Paleon are like, oh, shit. Yeah, that would really fuck up our timeline, essentially. Here are the Praetorians. Here are the additional interceptors. Here are the bombers. So through that action, you could see that this is why the Empire from day one identified, obviously, the Jedi need to go. That was step one. Step two was, all right, what's the next near unstoppable force in the galaxy? The Mandalorians. So that's why they hit them hard, and that's why we learned through Bo's story, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, that they fucked them. They weren't trying to make an example of them. They just knew, surrender or not, these people need to fucking die and never ever come back, because if they do, the Empire is going to be hurting, or in this case, the remnant. So yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't mind if it's like Casca or Axe. I just think that, like, storyline wise, you're not going to get anything interesting out of it.
That's like Props is saying here. He's saying, good point, Nick. I mean, armor probably made up the whole don't ever take your helmet off to hide who she was the whole time. So yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's so many red flags. That's why TV brain is kicking in. Like, it's too obvious, Matt. It's too obvious, Matt. It's too obvious. But you never know. It's like the finale of season 2. I'm sitting here basically like, I'll lick my own nutsack if Luke Skywalker shows up. That they're never going to do it. They're not going to rely on the dream team. They don't need it, damn it. And sure as shit, there you go. He showed up, and it's one of the best moments in the Star Wars fandom. So I'm more than likely wrong, but I don't know. It's just like they've made it too in our face that she's bad.
All I want is just a good story to come out of it. I don't care which one it is, as long as you give me something that is cool.
I mean, that's how I am too. I'm not one of these people that's gonna fucking pout, and that's what I think a lot of it is. It's just some fans still haven't realized that what you read on the internet and what you have in your head doesn't always mean that that's what you're gonna get. And sometimes you need to break away from that. You know what I mean? It's like if this season isn't playing out the way you heard from, dick face clickbait YouTuber, then that should teach you a lesson about that YouTuber and yourself. You are drawn to the negative of Star Wars, the clickbait. You're not really here to enjoy it and process the lore and talk about it with other like-minded individuals. You like living in the dark, all right? You like that, the anger, the doom scrolling, getting yourself worked up. It's weird. I just don't get it. I mean, I am a pessimistic person by trade, but when it comes to Star Wars, my glass is fucking half full. All right, good stuff. Thank you, Nick. I needed that. But yeah, it's just as squirrely as we were all talking in Discord. It's too. They're making her too obvious, man. Too obvious. But I'm sure she's going to be the one. Or will she? All right.
Maybe. Who knows?
Moving on with top moments here. Let's keep getting through. And everyone knows that has listened to this show, I'm a sucker for Grogu. So seeing him get a new toy and act like a little kid getting a new toy made me smile. I mean, Nick, I know it probably doesn't count to you, but Grogu is now officially talking through his Casio. You're probably too young to even know what a Casio is, but you know he.
No, I
all right, so he is. He can communicate, right? You said as long as he's communicating somehow, even if it's yes or no, it's binary. But he is communicating with Din more so now than ever.
Yeah, I mean it's a step forward. It's a step in the right direction. So I do like how they have finally given him a bit of his own agency through IG-12 now. So that right. Was a fun. I was like laughing for like the entire scene when he first starts walking around until he gets up to the fucking. I mean,
to me that's fucking Star Wars. That's fun. I mean that's why I love Grogu. I mean there's some great hijinks for that character. From the moment his Uncle Grief brings it in and he's sitting on the table stuffing his face, he sees it, drops everything he's doing, gets excited because there's another Anzellan coming out. The Anzellan walking cautiously by, like no squeezy, no squeeze. Like as dumb as that shit is, I live for that stuff, man. That's fucking Star Wars to me. That's that George Lucas stuff. Even better in my opinion. I mean, it's just it was the best. He gets in there. He's not listening to his parent. All parents can kind of relate to that. He's just walking around figuring it out. Yes, no, yes. And then they cut out into the streets. And he's yes, 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 yes. He's like doing his best Daniel Bryan impression. It was great stuff. But yeah, hey, Grogu, like Nick said, has more agency now than ever. He's no longer confined to Din's arms or his pod. He has his exoskeleton, as MSW reported well over a year ago. And it actually turned out better than I thought, right? I mean, when we first heard about this, I was like, okay, how fucking crazy are they going to make this IG-11 chassis? And they did. They made it just like, and I don't know if you've seen the memes, but they made it's very similar to Krang's ride. Yeah. I forget what the tall guy was. Did the tall guy have a name that Krang would drive around his belly?
I can't remember. If he had a name, but I have seen the memes and the artwork with it and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's very similar for sure. Yeah,
but you could see him. It's like once Grogu got a bit more autonomy, he started acting like a kid would. I mean, not listening to his dad, stealing the food. Like, yum, 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 yum. Like he grabs that box and you can hear him like, yum, 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 yum.
You have to pay.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I love that shit. And maybe because there hasn't been a ton of Din and Grogu, maybe that's why people think this season is bullshit. But you can see, like, anytime these two are together, even a silly moment like this, it hits, it resonates. Good stuff. So love that Grogu is in IG-12. Next one here. And we, I kind of teased this a bit earlier, but Bo-Katan reveals the truth. I really like the nighttime scene with all the Mandalorians, the nomads, the bloodlines, and the primitives. I'm sorry, Paz and Din, but it is a great fucking diss for them from the purebred Mandos, the primitives. But I liked them. I mean, it's cool seeing them all together. These different factions who haven't been able to be in the same room for decades, sitting together, talking about the failures of their society, of their culture, and how their biggest enemy are themselves. I think that was, a very poignant moment there when Bo was like, listen, you dumb assholes. Like, the only reason the Empire was able to topple us is because we had already kicked the living shit out of ourselves before they even got here. And you could see that throughout this episode as they came together. I mean, it was always, oh, there's Mandos on the horizon, let's get ready to fight. Or, hey, we're playing chess, let's fucking fight each other because I think you're cheating. They're fucking crazy people. But we also got some lore that I think everyone has been wanting. Okay, how did she lose the Darksaber? And we finally got it. Whether you love the explanation or not, she sits down and she's like, listen, they didn't punish us because we didn't surrender. I did surrender. You know, Gideon reached out through the ISB. I turned over the Darksaber with the promise that the other cities would be left untouched, and he fucking lied. So I like that. Even if it's a conversation to explain it, we got it. Okay. I hate shows where they put all these irons in the fire and then they leave most of them in. So far, Mando's been doing great at that, and this season has pulled a lot of those irons out or expanded upon that, which is why I've been appreciating season 3. But this talk really, Nick, to me, solidifies Bo-Katan as the ruler, the main voice, the one in charge, the one at the head of the table that everyone is going to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, like, that just goes to show too, like, all of this stuff about the Darksaber, like, she never lost it in combat, so it was rightfully hers the whole time. Like, she gave it to him to essentially say, like, okay, can you stop killing people now? So she didn't lose it in combat. She still had it rightfully, and now she just got it back rightfully again.
That is a great point. Yeah, I didn't think so. That should hopefully smooth the people over that still didn't like that didn't gave it to her. You are right. Like, and we established they believe in Darksaber technicalities, so you're 100% correct.
Yeah. And I will say too, I think that, like, by the end of this season, like by the end of tomorrow, the Darksaber bullshit will just come to an end. Because Bo-Katan is assuredly the one that's gonna die. Because it doesn't make sense to kill Din, because if you kill Din and you don't kill Bo, then your show turns into a show about government.
Yeah, the Bo-Delorian.
And yeah, I mean, it would literally, because, like, if Din dies, then the show gets transferred over to let's watch how Mandalorians rebuild their society, and not a show about, like, hey, let's jump around the galaxy and do cool stuff with, and so, like, that's what's going to happen if there really is a big death and Brendan Wayne is not, like, yanking everybody's chain. Bo's going to die, Bo's going to die. They're going to be like, well, what happens with the saber now? And then people are going to be like, well, why the fuck do we care about this thing anyway? Well,
dude, I mean, we literally Din himself, and, you know, I was kind of saying this last week, but Din in this episode says it straight up. He's like, listen, my people, we don't give two flying fucks about the Darksaber or class, nobility, essentially, bloodline. He's like, all we care about is honor, and you got to love the guy. You know, we make fun of him, we make fun of his, you know, allegiance to the cult, but the cult has made him a pretty damn well thought out galactic traveler. You know what I mean? Like, he gets it. He's like, listen, lady, like, you guys have all that nonsense with the saber, and, you know, you got to be of blood. We just care about loyalty and honor, and that, if anything, from the children is what more the Mandalorians need if they truly want to rebuild and actually be able to combat what's coming down the pipe, which is clearly going to be the full force of the Remnant, some Thrawn action, and then eventually the First Order.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what's going to happen. Like, if somebody's going to die, it's going to be Bo, which sucks because I really hope that if she does die, then she dies, like, going out as the Mandalorians are succeeding in retaking their planet. The only problem that arises then is, like, well, who becomes the leader? Like, who is now or do they just go to, like, some sort of, like, more democratic based system where you don't have, like, a singular leader or, like,
I mean, honestly, if things do go the way they go, you are probably right. I mean, we could see the first power struggle happen tomorrow. I mean, knowing the bloodline Mandos, or, I mean, they could challenge right there. Bo's gone, boo-hoo, that was sad. All right, who's next? I challenge. You know, I could see that happening. Why not?
Yeah, so I think that, like, with a lot of the, you know, speculation that's going on, I think it may come down to, like, if the armor isn't the betrayer, I don't think that she would willingly take up the mantle as the leader of Mandalore unless it's truly like a triple cross. And like one of the reasons why we don't see Mandos in the sequel trilogy again is because not only did you have the fucking so here's a possibility. You can have both the armorer and Axe be spies or double cross, whatever. Like Axe was the one that was feeding information to but then once Bo dies and the armorer takes over, she was working for them the whole time anyway. And then the same thing that happened in Rebels, or that happens in the Imperial timeline, just happens again, to where an Imperial sympathizer takes over as the head of the Mandalorian people, and then they're just fucking screwed again.
Dude, I've been thinking about that shit too, because let's say the good guys do ultimately win, Mandalore's retaken. How are these motherfuckers not around when the First Order's doing its thing, Or is it what we've been hearing from Dave and John, like, oh yeah, hey, listen, this is our sandbox, but some of these stories and characters that they can be doing their own thing while other things are happening in the galaxy. So we could also have that too, where they just pretend that Mandalorians don't give a fuck about the galaxy again. Who knows? But yeah, I mean that is something to think about. What? Where are they? I mean, if these people return to glory, the Spartans of Star Wars, where the fuck are they when the bad guys come back?
And that has always been an issue with how Star Wars stories have been told, even under George, where it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you, like, OT obviously fine because there was nothing before or after it. Like, we knew that based off of the numbers that there's something that happened before. But then, like, you tell the prequel trilogy, and then you're like, okay, well, now we see how we kind of got here, but then there's so much time between these two things. Now I got to go back and fill in all the middle. And they did the same fucking thing with the sequel trilogy, where it's like, okay, well, we jumped ahead so far that we have so much to tell you in the middle, and now we have to stitch it all together. Like, I really do feel like they need to fucking, like, get their head out of their ass and stop telling their stories out of order, because it causes so many problems when you're trying to when you're trying to tell stuff. Like,
that is a great point, but dude, why it's happening is because they didn't do their due diligence on the sequels. That's
I mean, like their choice to like push the sequels out as far as they did and tell them the way that they told them, like, obviously it matches up with what George did with the prequels, but it also causes a fucking shitload of problems where it's like, okay, well, now not only do we have to explain how we have an entire show that's dedicated to showing the rise of the Mandalorians back to their glory again, but we now also have to explain, well, if they come back to their glory again, why, when the entire galaxy is about to be fucking destroyed, are they nowhere to be seen? Or do you just literally say, like, well, in the scene that you hate in Tross, when all the ships show up, the Mandalorian, there, right? Yeah, the
gauntlets are there. Like, the light cruiser's still there. That's right. I think I saw it there in frame 5,000.
Is that how you solve it? Is like you just say, like, well, they were there.
Yeah, look right there. See that dot? See that dot? That's Bo's old ship. See it?
Yeah, and so, like, sometimes I get it, like, you want to, like, push your shit out and be like, okay, well, we're gonna give area for these people to cook and really, like, make their own stories happen, but also you have to realize that you're still working in an interconnected galaxy where, like, even if you give somebody 60 years of time, like, of space to, like, work, you still have to fill in those narrative gaps at some point. So it's just like, yeah, because at this point it's like, okay, great. Like, it was the same thing I was saying with all the Thrawn shit. It's like, okay, great. Thrawn comes to whatever. How long does it last? A year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years? Like, how long does, like, you now are working on a time schedule with everything that you write. So it does kind of get frustrating when it's like, if you told a story in sequential order, then you don't have to worry about, well, now I got to make this work with this and this and all this other shit.
Backfilling is never ideal, and backfilling is never ideal, but that's the world we live in because the creator started in the middle And it just seems they they like to take that approach, even though he has had nothing to do with Star Wars since what, 2014 or 13 or 15. 14. So yeah, all right. Well, hey, I like these moments with Bo. This to me, as we're talking about Bo potentially being the one to die, the scene I have up on the live stream, which if you want to join 5 p. East on Tuesdays at Star Wars Time Show on YouTube. But a red flag for her death. And we could also compare her journey this season to Tech, and we know what potentially happened to him. I mean, think about all the character growth Bo has had. She's on her way to redemption, full redemption, like Mac Daddy redemption. But when she's out there staring into the horizon and Din comes up, I mean, what he essentially says is, Lady Bo, I am your knight in shining arbor. I am in your service until you die. I mean, that's what he's saying. Until your song is written is until you're fucking dead. So that's another like, hey, if you're paying attention, she may be dead by the end of the season.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's definitely dead. I mean, they've and the thing is like, now everybody, like, I hate that this thing came out from Brendan Wayne because now it's so fucking obvious. But because like at least we wouldn't have known that she was gonna die. Like they could have ended this season with no main characters dying. And the fact that now we know somebody dies from Brendan Wayne kind of sucks, as with every fucking leak, because it just ruins what would be cool narrative moments for the people who actually want to watch this shit without reading it before it happens. But they could have ended this whole series. They could have ended this season without either one of those motherfuckers dying. Like they didn't have to kill her off, but they are going to, which sucks.
Yeah, that's what Props is up here saying. Brendan.
Well, Props is also Props also knows that like if Katie dies, he's like, fuck, man, like. That's my girl.
I don't know I don't think he has her as a client yet. He's working way up. It seems him and Scoundrel have kind of cornered the market on like the secondary cast, which is still fucking kick ass. I mean,
because they work with the armor with Emily Swallow and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but either way,
I mean, like, it would just suck narratively if she died in this one, which she is. So get prepared for it.
More than likely. All right, continuing with our top moments here. I can see we're probably gonna have to scrap something. That's all right. Anytime we talk good Mando for hours on end, I'm here for it. But to kind of round out the top moments here, just the Mando v Empire trap. I mean, Nick and I said we wanted to see Mando v Empire en masse. We got it. Sadly for our Mandalorians, they actually had to fight really competent Imperial forces. What are we calling these people, Nick? I mean, are these the new version of an Imperial super commando?
Super commandos.
I mean, are they clones? Is this the first round of Gideon's, as he literally says, Jedi Mando clones, or are these holdover Mandalorians, or troopers that actually aren't dumb?
I mean, if anything, like if what he described is what they actually are, like Jedi Mando clones, they're V1 Sith troopers is what they are.
Good point.
But realistically, they're probably more like Imperial super commandos, like we saw in Rebels timeline.
Well, yeah. Cause, I mean, dude, now we know the Empire never left Mandalore, or at least Gideon's wing of it. I mean, they just stayed there buried in, and he's got a fucking fortress under there with, who knows? I know Paz really thinned their fucking ranks. I mean, I think Paz himself took out 50 of these motherfuckers before his gun overheated. But yeah, I mean, they're clearly not robots. I don't think they're clones yet, because it doesn't seem like he's figured out the science quite yet, even though we saw cloning tubes in there. So he's fucking cloning something.
He's trying. Yeah, like he's trying.
But they're definitely not robots. You also got to like Gideon himself, like, hey, Dark Trooper 4.0, you know why it's the best? Because I'm in it, bitch.
Yeah, because I'm in it.
I fucking love Giancarlo, man. I mean, I know he's not Moff Gideon, but he is. You know what I mean? Where did his mustache go, by the way? I mean, did you notice Gideon shaved his fucking stash?
They made him shave it off for the brief amount of time that he was in New Republic prison.
Yeah, but
or like no facial hair allowed.
The whole battle was great, and then it turns into the trap. But it was I guess it was intriguing to see Mandalorian forces, or not like Imperial forces, actually being competent against another impressive force in the galaxy. I mean, it was pretty much a 1-to-1 fight because of the Beskar. I mean, we got to give our Mandos an edge because their life is training how to use their armor and the weapon kit. But I mean, they gave them a hell of a fight. These, as we're calling, I like Nick's V1 Sith Trooper, or just the next gen of the Super Commandos. But I tell you what, man, that Beskar can do wonders for a force that used to struggle in battle, both with accuracy and dying a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, like now you can get shot as many times as you want. It doesn't matter. Like, unless they shoot you in the neck or in between your armor plates, right, you're really kind of like not doing that bad. That's why Paz is throwing people off of cliffs and shit, because is really the most accurate way to take them down.
I don't know why people in Star Wars don't aim for more gut shots, because most Mandalorians are not protected in their midsection by Beskar. And yeah, it may not kill them, but you can definitely slow one down if you shoot them in their fucking stomach, especially Paz's belly. I think that thing almost like hung over his belt a little bit. Come on. But hey, listen, it looked great. I mean, that's what we've been hoping to see this season. We got to see. You got to see that, you know, even in an ambush, Mandalorians are pretty fucking impressive. I mean, they're like, oh yeah, they beat him back. They didn't beat him back. I mean, they wanted to follow them into the deeper halls of Gideon's secret base.
Yeah, they were drawing them in the whole way. Like,
but yeah, I mean, it goes all the way to the trap. The trap is great. I mean, our hero gets separated. He's the only one that survives. I mean, it's. I guess we have to assume that Gideon's like, hey, don't shoot the guy and just without the paint, okay? Let him live. Shoot all the other ones, because he did get trapped with like 4 other Mandos. They get wasted in 2 seconds. Din, starts lighting the room on fire, and it takes 15 grappling hooks to take him down. But this is also where you realize that Star Wars is Star Wars, and bad guys are always dumb as fuck. You have Din Djarin on his knees, and you don't just chop his head off. What the fuck does Gideon need to learn from Din Djarin? Yeah. Like, what does he need to interrogate him for?
It is the typical
maniacal.
Like the standard.
Here's my plan.
Move.
Let me tell you my plan, and so we can draw things out so Bo can cut holes in doors and do an end around flank maneuver. It's just like, bro, What could you possibly draw out of Din Djarin's head that's going to benefit you? Yeah,
I mean, if anything, he knows the least out of everybody. Like he has no information that he can give you. I mean, like, what can he tell you?
All right, I see Devin and Props in here. Mind flay. What does that achieve?
I'm about to say, but what? Yeah, it's like, what are you gonna get out? Like, Din doesn't know shit. Like, Din doesn't even know that there's a mythosaur under the planet that they're sitting on. Like,
I guess anything. If it's like a full flay, it just turns him into a vegetable, so that's one less skilled warrior to deal with. But then why not just fucking kill him? Like, I know, this is what I mean.
Yeah,
I mean, I know why they don't kill him, but it's silly.
If you're going to capture anyone, like if your goal is to like capture one of them to like turn them to your side and have them fight for you, I much rather have Paz than Din.
But take Bo-Katan and the Darksaber, because Gideon clearly still wants it to lead.
Yeah, like there were way better options. And I mean, like, of course, it's a main character thing. He's got plot armor, so you can't kill him. But like, realistically, what does he know that other people don't know?
Well, here Prop said he will forget everything, so he works for them. But if he gets mind flayed the fuck, will he even know his skills anymore? I mean, will he even know how to be a Mandalorian? Will he know how to be a weapon of war if his mind is wiped out?
Because it's also like, what's the point then? It's like, okay, well, you mind flame, and then what? You have one more soldier that's in white armor. It's like, who gives a fuck at that point? Like. like if you're like if that was the case, then like capture them all, like lock them in that fucking room, toss some gas in there, knock them all out, and then bring them back and mind play the whole
the other
thing.
good point. They should have just dropped when they had them sandbox, just, you know, open a port in the ceiling and drop a bunch of thermal detonators.
Yeah.
See ya. We win.
Yeah, it's like, all right, now y'all are toast.
Mandalore's mine again.
Just like, it's like you like. I think we like in a narrative sense, it's like, oh no, they've captured our hero. Now we have to see how he gets out, and that's like the whole thing to it. But like in a realistic way of like, what do you benefit by having him? The only thing that you could potentially argue is like, well, now you forced them to try to rescue him. And like that's like your bargaining chip is like, okay, well now you have to come to us because we have
that makes sense to me because he still wants the Darksaber. I mean, he says as much to Bo when he captures Din, like, give me the fucking Darksaber. I'm ruling Mandalore again. And that kind of takes me back to, you know, what if Axe did work a deal with him? Like, hey man, I'll get you the Darksaber again as long as, you know, you're the leader. You'll have the saber. We're with you. Just let us live on our planet again and start rebuilding it. Hey, listen, guys, we're not piling on you. I don't understand the mind flay angle, and I've seen it on plenty of different other posts. So that's not just something coming up here. And who knows, maybe it happens. It just doesn't quite make sense to me with how they've showed us how mind flaying works. It just doesn't. It seems like even if you get the mushroom version of it where you have a fun trip, I don't know how much of you retain. I mean, maybe you retain everything, but would you still then be brainwashed enough to work for a bad guy that you hate?
I mean, if anything, what it'll do is like you have a scene where they flay him and he's fighting against them, and then you have that moment of like, I think I know where they fucking flay him, and then he kills Bo when he's all fucked up. And then they rescue him, or he comes out of it somehow because Grogu does a force thing to fix his head. And then he's like, "Oh my God, what did I do? What did I do?" And you have that moment.
Look at this guy.
Like that's what's gonna happen.
Look at this guy. Nice one. No, I like that, Nick. That gets a cheer for sure. I like that. I could see them doing that.
And then you also imagine that also gives you like the
props saying, imagine Din doesn't remember Grogu. All right, okay, all right. I think that's kind of what Nick is saying.
I mean, it turns him into a zombie, and then it also like if he's the one who kills Bo-Katan, then you can keep your Darksaber bullshit by being like, well, technically he killed him, so he has the Darksaber, so he's the Darksaber person for the Mandalorians. And blah, blah, blah. Even though he was mind controlled or mind flayed or whatever you want to call it, he killed Bo-Katan, so he wins the Darksaber. So it's still in Mandalorian hands, and it doesn't belong to Gideon. So you can keep the bullshit with the Darksaber going.
That's getting really far out. Whoa, boy. How about that? Woo. That's getting really far out. But hey, it is Star
honestly,
Wars.
like that's the bet. Like, if you're gonna kill Bo, that's the best way to do it. You kill her with the mind controlled Din. Yeah. And then like that's an emotional like moment because she does what is she gonna do?
Right.
Like she wants to save this guy. Like she wants to like not kill him, but she's like he's coming at her full fucking force, and so it sets up a good like intense narrative fight because as it is now, if it was just like all the Mandalorians versus all of the Imperial super commandos or what's your point of tension? Like what's your high stakes moment? There isn't one. Like there's no high stakes moment if it's just a straight up fight. Like what's the high stakes moment? Bo fighting Gideon, who was a complete buffoon.
Right.
Who got his ass kicked by Din.
You're making sense, man. You're making sense. That will be rough, and that does kind of play in the Brendan Wayne's mantra he's put out there for this episode. Like it's gonna be rough to take in. All right, to kind of round out that top moment of the trap, obviously the somber close to the story of Paz Vizsla. I mean, that is if you're gonna go out. That's a way to go out, to where you essentially wipe out an entire battalion, and his weapon fails him. He even takes some out with melee, and then we see Gideon's call comes in to roost here. I mean, we heard him ask for the Praetorian Guards. He gets them, and now we see why he wanted them. And I'm not saying these are the same three that are in part of Snoke's guard that we see in The Last Jedi. Who knows? I mean, they do have the same weapons, and for the most part, their armor's similar, but still closer to an Imperial Guard at this point. It's not as rigid as they get in TLJ. And their helmets, I still contend, look very Mandalorian-esque. I mean, let's be real. So, I mean, Paz, he had no chance. I mean, we know the Praetorian Guards from TLJ. They're not dipshits. They're not your common guard.
Yeah, they're not.
I mean, they even though they did lose, it took the fucking dyad essentially working together to take them all out. So they are highly skilled. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they are former Mandalorians, if they do have a little Force juice in them. I don't think they do. But he went out like a warrior. I mean, he gave them what he could, but you're not going to beat 3-on-1 when they have light weapons that can pierce Beskar and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. And, they made short work of him. So I'm assuming, do we get a battle between the good and these guys again, Nick, or the Praetorian Guards kind of wiped off the map for now?
No, I assume that they'll be back in the final battle, and that'll also be like a cool fight scene where it's like, oh shit, they're fighting the Praetorians that just killed Haz. I don't think that those three are the same ones that were in the Snoke throne room. I just think that it's too far, it's too long of a gap.
They would be old as shit. They'd be like 60 or 70 trying to swing that thing around.
Yeah,
but it's almost like the Praetorian Guard. I don't know what to compare this to in the real world, but it's like they always have the same three, each using a specific weapon. You know what I mean? So like through time, they just replace the fucking sword guy, and then they'll replace the light whip guy. But you always assume that role. That you always assume you're this Praetorian with this weapon. So it never feels like they go away. They're always persistent. But it was a good death. I mean, Paz has never been one of my favorite guys. He's kind of a douche, always whining, always bitching, always fucking with my boy Din. But he turned himself around this season. He earned this death, as Nova's saying here. It definitely was a warrior's death, a Mandalorian warrior's death. How about that? So good stuff there in the top moments. Holy shit, we are really diving deep into this thing. All right.
Penultimate
That's right.
episode.
I mean, it's good shit. It was definitely good stuff. And
next
next
week,
week,
very, very good
this conversation could be even longer. So let's go to the eggs references and all that fun stuff. So let me switch gears real quick, pull up the new post, and let's dive right on into it. So first up, we get an IPD talking with Kane, and she also drops her TK number, TK2755. I looked it up. Doesn't point to anything that would make people go, ooh, wow, that was a nice little Easter egg. But, you did get the TK designation in there. So that's that. And really, I mean, that opening scene, Nick, it begs for that Star Wars Underworld series to be a thing. I mean, to me, it really looked like what George was trying to do based on some of that footage we saw.
It also, it had a bit of Andor feel to it, like that. It had like a clandestine type of Andor feel, especially from the first two episodes where they're still on, what was it? Not Aldani, whatever the first fucking planet was before they go to Ferrix. I can't remember the name of it now. But when he's doing shady dealings over there, I mean, it had that type of feel to it. So, big fan of that scene for sure. Strong opening to the episode.
Yep. And then up next we got it was like who's who of references and things of note once we were reintroduced to Gideon in his secret base. But we got the cloning tanks that we've seen in season 1, and they look very similar to the Bad Batch, just what we saw there at the end of season 2. I mean, it was literally like a who's who of mentions. Not to miss the fact that he's walking through those ray shields that look very similar to what we saw in TPM when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are fighting our boy Maul. And then once you hit the Shadow Council itself, Nick, it's just like, let's just start name dropping shit left and right. We got the Thrawn, Commandant Brendel Hux, who played by Brian Gleason, brother of Domhnall Gleeson, who played Armitage Hux.
Look at that.
You got that family connection in there. We got the Project Necromancer, which refers to Palpatine. So yeah, I mean, the whole Shadow Council was nothing but references for nuts like me to dig into. So dug it all.
Yeah.
And that wasn't it. Like I told you earlier, I mean, the captain there, Pelion, I'm clearly not a big book reader, but for fans of Zahn, I mean, this was like, yeah, he's here. They brought him back from Legends. And I know he kind of did some comm work in Rebels, so they were already working this character back in. But to get him, and the fact that they use Xander Berkeley, who looks just like the captain from Heir to the Empire, if you look at any of the illustrations. I mean, Nick, it is an uncanny casting that they did with this guy, because he looks just like the captain from the Thrawn Legends stories. And like we said earlier, you can tell that this is Thrawn's dude, because he's the only one that is really stumping for the grand return that he thinks is happening, while none of his other...
I don't even know, like, it's so funny too, because if you read the like the subtitles while it was on, he's clearly still very unsure if Thrawn's going to come back. He's like, well, when and it's like, it says at one point, like, stutters, and it's like, he's like, when Thrawn comes back, it'll be fine.
But so you can tell whenever they met in their journey through the Imperial Navy, he latched on to Thrawn, and that was going to be his guy to pull him through, and he's going to do whatever it takes to regain that power. It's very reminiscent of what I'm seeing in the final season of Succession. And some things happen to where certain allies are doing other things, and their hangers on are like, oh shit, there kind of goes my meal ticket type of deal, and that's the captain for you there. Oh, there you go. Our boy Devin hooked us up. Morlana. That was the planet for
Morlana.
Yeah,
Morlana.
That's right. That's where it all started. That's how he got cereal on his ass, because that was his old district. So thank you, Devin. Okay, up next. In this one, it's weird. I think it's people from my generation, but when I got in the Discord, Tones confirmed my own feeling. But when I saw the Mandalorian Nomad ship, I was waiting for Kevin Costner to jump off it with his webbed feet and gilled neck, because man, does it feel like a water world vessel? And if you think about it, that's what it is. Instead of skimming water, it's skimming the glass surface of Mandalore. But everything about the Nomads felt very water world-esque. They were very dystopian. I love their chunky armor and their salvaged gear. I mean, they definitely do look like they've been living on the surface from running from location to location to location just to stay alive. And now we're not done with them. The two main Mandalorian Nomads, the ones that got some speaking parts, are from other properties you're probably well aware of. The first one being Skinny Pete, Charles Baker. So the crusty old white guy, that's Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad, the crackhead that was friends with Jesse. And I saw earlier, if you look at his one pauldron, Nick, the one that's showing in the image, it's a repurposed B2 head.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that like, it definitely it looks like a head.
It is. I saw it pop up on socials today, and then Batches re-mentioned again in the chat. And then the other actor, if you're a fan of Top Gun Maverick, he was the other admiral that wasn't fucking with Maverick. Okay, he was kind of the one he was kind of one wink wink nod nod the Maverick, while the other guy was a dickhead.
I was staring at him for so long. I was like, I know this guy from somewhere, but I couldn't place it.
Charles Parnell is his name. So, but yeah, I mean, these guys could, like we said, these guys could be the spies too. Maybe they made a deal like, hey, Gideon, can we at least get a hovel or something if we rat these bastards out? Because it's just like, how how these people living on the surface not see convoys of fucking Imperial starships coming down and docking in an underground base. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's so many options for the spy that and that's why I was saying, like, it could literally be multiple people. It could be like, Armor is long game, and then Axe is the one who gave up. I mean,
Armor, dude, her long game. We're talking decades. That is a long fucking game, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we don't even have to say in days. I mean, we're talking hours at this point in time. I mean, I am less than 12 hours away from getting the goods, and I'm ready for.
I might actually watch this one on release.
Yeah,
instead of waiting until the day of the.
I always give Nick a high sign in our Slack. I never spoil anything, but this week I just said yes. I was like, you'll get it when you get it, but yeah, I think this is one. Just based on what is going to be an inevitable fan explosion, one way or the other. Yeah, you're probably going to want to get this one off the board quick.
Yeah, I gotta watch it so I don't catch any strays.
Otherwise you're gonna get hit. It's gonna be too easy. Yeah. Hey, Praetorian Guards, let's go. We got them. We knew. We got the rumor they're coming. Even the sketch of what they look like was spot on. But it was cool to see them. I mean, I like their mystique. I like how they carry themselves. They know they're fucking badass. And at this point, I kind of want to delve deeper into the whole Praetorian thing. Like, where were they? Why did they just show up now? Why didn't fucking Palpatine have a few of his own instead of those Imperial Guards? Or is this the second coming of the Imperial Guards, and the Imperial Guards were just lazy assholes during the Empire's reign? Do they have any ties to Mandalorians or the Force? Because with just melee weapons. I mean, we're never going to be able to figure out what they would have done with Paz if he still had his heavy gun. But with just melee weapons, they seem unstoppable. You know what I mean? Like they seemed even more skilled than Mandalorians themselves.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things where, like, I think even if he had his gun, because of how slow he moves with it, and because of like
cut him up.
How it restricts his movement, they still would have got him. But as soon as you see him take out the little dagger, you're like, oh, you're fucked.
Yeah, good
luck.
Like,
you don't even have a chance. The only shot he had was to fly away.
And they made it clear his pack was fucked from the gun. Yeah, it was definitely sparking. Because, my mom was in town because my wife had to get surgery to remove some tumors. So far, so good. We don't know if they're malignant yet, but it's probably going to be all right. But so we're watching the episode, and my mom, she's an older lady in her 70s. She loves this stuff, and this episode just emotionally fucking worked her over. And the Paz moment, she could kind of see the writing on the wall, and she's like, just fly away, just use your jetpack, come on, you got to get away, come on, big guy, you got to get away. I'm like, Mom, it's sparking, man. That thing ain't lighting up. And sure enough, it happens, and he dies like a hero. But it was funny to see that reaction.
It's the same thing I said about Tech in the finale. Is a good death. Is a good death, and that's all you can ask for as a secondary character. Honestly, is a good death.
100%. And I can't quite remember why I have an image of Gideon in his pimp suit, but it looks cool. So there you go. Hopefully they make a hot toy.
It was probably just because he was like, because of what he said. Like he was like, oh yeah, it's better because I'm in it. I fucking love it.
Yeah, I think it was Linda up in the chat. A few scrolls up there was like, maybe he's just cloning himself to put in those fucking suits of armor, because he clearly thinks very highly of his both mental prowess and physical skills. So you never know. A guy like that very, very well could be cloning himself, like those creeps that would go to the sperm banks and just make 50 deposits. Now they have like 1,000 kids spread across the country. It's a cool suit, and let's hope for the hot toys. Like I said, I need to find someone that I can now pay to place my hot toys on a glass shelf and take them down when I need to, because it sucks. All right. Holy hell. Was that a fucking deep dive or what? I think we got all the Haas. Oh, Grogu stopping the duel. Love that moment. I mean, it just goes to show
that was fun.
He knows what's up. Super Commandos we talked about. Gideon has Beskar Dark Troopers and drop. Yeah, we talked about that. Oh, well, this is perfect. So this will lead into our speculation, my last two Ha's. And as we speculate, Nick, I'm going to finally pull up the... Why the fuck is Star Wars Theories site on here? That wasn't what I had queued up. I'm going to pull up, there it is, Brendan Wayne's post. So if you're on the stream, you haven't seen it yet, we got it up right now. And it's literally, like I said, it's the real Brendan Wayne on Instagram replying to a fan. A fan just posted, "What an episode." And he gets this reply from a main cast member. "This next episode is going to make you wish you hadn't asked for more. It might just hurt too much." And that's where, my dumb ass scan it. I instantly put my fat face on a reel, throw it up there, try to generate some news. Everyone sees my post and just acts like they found it themselves. That's fine. I'm used to it. But that's a big deal. I'm sorry. Like that, when you have a guy like that, and I looked through his socials, he doesn't really comment much, doesn't really do a ton of posting. He went out of his way to fucking drop this knowledge. And that's why, Nick, without even knowing, when we started chatting today, he's already talking about like, oh, big characters dying. I'm like, well, it's because of this. He started it. The main guy that plays Din Djarin started this. So clearly someone big is dying in the finale as we begin our predictions here. And what I had written down, and we've talked about, and we don't have to go into it, but these are the candidates I believe to warrant a reaction like this from Brendan. Din, Bo, Grogu, or a collection of secondaries. So not just one, like, Casca dies and Armorer dies, Axe dies, like some secondaries that had a few speaking lines, they all kind of go out and the Mandalorian herd gets thinned a bit. So I know, Nick, we've kind of beat this like a dead horse, and you're on Bo. I'm definitely leaning towards Bo. But out of those options, could you think of anything else that could elicit a reaction like this? Let's say it's not a death. Is there anything else you could kind of speculate what Brendan's talking about here?
I mean, the only way that I could see this hurt. No, actually, no. There's nothing else that I would
it's got to be a big name dying, right? I mean, it just has to be.
Yeah, that would hurt because even if it ends and there's no death and it like ends on a cliffhanger where like it ends with Din being like still mind fucked and loyal to the like Imperial Remnant, or if it ends with him being like his mind being completely like flayed and destroyed and he doesn't remember anything. I don't know if that would be a hurt thing. I think hurt is like this character is gone forever. And I think that the only one that really makes it, because like to me, if Din died, I don't think it would really make that much of a difference in terms of like hurt, but that's just to me.
Well,
like,
I can tell you, if Din dies, the fucking fandom that is not fans,
oh, yeah, like
they will literally burn down Kathleen Kennedy's house.
So I mean, it's not him. The only thing that would make me think that it would be him, that it's possible to be him, is like the off comment that Rick Famuyiwa said, where he was like, well, the title of The Mandalorian doesn't apply. Like, it's not talking about Din anymore.
No, you're right. I mean, Rick essentially channeled you from pre-season 1 saying, hey, listen,
he was like,
this can mean anybody with a fucking helmet on their head. Yeah.
So like, but it's not going to be Din, because Din's your only character that takes you off of Mandalore from here on out. Unless shit goes.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, if you kill Din and Grogu, like, I mean, I trust John and Dave, so if they do make that choice, I'm trusting them. But that's you're kneecapping yourself pretty fucking hard.
Yeah, and I mean, also, like, we're working under the assumption that like the Mandalorians win and retake their planet. It's highly likely that they just fucking lose and they don't retake their planet. But it's not Din, because he's your titular character and he's also the one that like gives you your mobility in this universe. So it's not him.
Pedro hates Disney because they make him wear a helmet.
Yeah. they also pay him a fucking shitload of money to sit in an ADR booth and do nothing. So I don't know how much he can hate him. So I don't think anybody would be hurt if the armorer died. I don't think anybody would be hurt if any of the characters died. It's going to be Bo. So she's the death.
Yeah, Scoundrel saying here, a guy from ILM just tweeted, "The end is nigh. Prepare yourselves."
Yeah, I mean, like
OFP Marine. I saw someone speculate it's going to be a Walking Dead and Glenn type of moment. I hope not. Like that would be kind of out of character for Star Wars, but you never know. Like
he is. Because I didn't watch The Walking Dead after the first season. Like he's the one that got like hit to death with a baseball bat, right?
But kind of like they established it was okay. So the way this happened, you had a cliffhanger where Negan whacks a guy, but you don't see who it is. You come back to the new season, you learn that it was Abraham. So it's like, oh, it wasn't Glenn after all, because Glenn gets it in the comics. But then Daryl speaks some shit, and then Negan goes over and ends up whacking Glenn on the head a few times anyways. So it was almost like a fake out where you thought, all right, Glenn made it out, but then he gets his brains bashed in right there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, your only other option is Grogu, like
which would be is like marketing suicide, like licensed suicide.
Yeah, no, like he's like the only thing that sells to the mass populace from this show. So they're not going to do that. I mean, like also if they did kill him, oh my god, it would be a heart-wrenching moment, but it would also be the only big loss that legitimately means nothing, because like Grogu as a character is just a tag along. Like he doesn't do anything that benefits or really hinders anybody else. Like he's there as like a cute sidekick.
Right.
And like everybody's always asked like, oh, well, why wasn't he around in the sequel trilogy? It may literally be because he's dead. But
I still think
you could kill him off.
I mean,
it's highly unlikely.
If this truly is about a character, Bo makes the most sense. We've gone through it. There've been a lot of red flags throughout the season, and if you compare her journey to Tex, who just presumably died, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Went from a loner to not really being a fan of Din and his cult to coming around to the way, redeeming herself in the eyes of her initial followers, getting them all to Mandalore, leading the charge to retake the planet. I mean, she is on a very clear redemption arc that made complete with her sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, what would really be a kick in the nuts for a Bo death is like she dies and they don't even win, because like I said, it's still.
But it would stick to her story, right? Like her story has always been failure, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
She tried. Like she really gave it
all right, so
her all.
That aside, for a prediction, we know big characters die, and it sounds like Team SWTS is going with Bo. Who knows? May or may not happen. I mean, there are some things I've seen out of the corner of my eye in terms of, we do know there's a celebration out there from our own leak. What does that mean? Why are they celebrating if they lose? When can the celebration take place? If the episode's only 30 minutes long, do we resolve the conflict in the first 25, 30? And then the last is for the sad stuff and the celebration? Who knows? So big death is going to happen. We're going Bo, if that's the case. Here's another prediction I'm going with, and I don't really think this is I'll take the trophies if you want to send it, but the New Republic is showing up, and it's going to be led by Tiva and a Delphi squadron. So I could see Zeb making an appearance in a fighter, Trapper, Rick's character, Deb's character. They're fucking coming because the Mandalorians have R5 with them. We know he can get tracked.
Yeah.
B, Teva was the one that found the down shuttle and was starting to put two and two together. Mandalorians, Empire. What does that mean for the New Republic? And C, you can tell everyone at Adelphi is itchy to do something because they are seeing these signs. They are making the request, but they're getting denied. So I could see a Delphi squadron going rogue and showing up at Mandalore right at the last second to turn the tide when we think that the fleet is going to be completely annihilated. So I am thinking the New Republic shows up via Delphi squadron, which is going to be Teva, Trapper. I'm hoping Zeb, and with Zeb we know, and Dave has said something interesting about Zeb's cameo. Like, hey, when Zeb walks out of that room to tell someone about what's going on, who do you think that could be? It's either going to be Hera or Sabine. So we could see their introduction into live action via this, what I think is not going to be blessed by the New Republic, but is going to be the Adelphi people going Rogue Squadron style.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron V2. I mean, it would make sense for Sabine to show up too, considering it's like a fight for her home planet. Even though we haven't really had
she would definitely be coming through the New Republic, though. I think through Zeb, that connection. I don't see Teva dying. Yeah, maybe some of the pilots could die, but probably not because they want their cameos. Bat's asking Boba. Yeah, I mean, there's still a chance for Boba. I'm just wondering what's the impetus for him showing up. Did Din have something on his armor when it gets stripped? It sends him a fucking notice. Yeah. Does Grogu know how to contact Boba? Why though? Like, you remember when they're on the surface, they can't come out. So anyone on the surface fucked. So unless Boba knew Din's plans, how does he get alerted? And I'm not saying it might not happen. It very well could. You might as well loop in all these Mandoverse characters, but how does he even find out?
But like, do you save like the real big like end game moment with all the boys coming together? Like, do you save that for the movie event, or do you like bust that shit now?
That's like, listen, I won't be surprised if Boba shows up. We've seen plenty of rumors that he could. I just wonder how does he get there? Why? Because you can't call out from the surface. So the fleet no longer knows that they're captured. The fleet doesn't know that the ground forces are fucked.
Yeah. I mean, until depending on what Axe's motivations are, until Axe breaks atmosphere and can communicate, nobody would know that they're in trouble. And even if they did, even if like the aerial forces know they're in trouble, nobody up there knows Boba Fett. Like, nobody knows to contact him.
Right.
Unless, there's nobody, because even, I guess you could, put out a call to Grief, but I don't even know if Grief knows Boba. I don't think
he probably
Grief
knows him
Boba
through the guild back in the guild days.
Yeah, through the guild and stuff, but I don't know if he knows the connection that Din has to Boba.
Bat has a point here. R5 through Peli, sure. I mean, that's a connection. Sure. SW props, we have to see. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're not done fully predicting yet, so we'll move on from this. I mean, Boba and gang doesn't make as much sense as New Republic, but I'm not going to be surprised. Listen, this is an ensemble universe at this point in time. The more chances they can bring everyone together and write more stories with them as a crew, they're going to take it. But yeah, the Mythosaur thing is going to happen. You don't just tease that. You don't tease that in episode 2, and then it just no payoff. Never. So yeah, I mean, more than likely, Bo-Katan, since she's the one directly tied into that thread, will be the one to get the Mythosaur. I don't know, Nick. Do you think it's as she cut herself out? Is her initial plan fuck it, I'm going for the beast? Or is that something that happens more organically?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question, because I think that if the Mythosaur emerges too early in this battle, it's just it's over, right? You don't really stand a chance now as the Imperial forces. You're just kind of fucked. Maybe it's a last ditch effort. Okay, we're losing. I got to get there. And see if this can be our mid-fight turn. And I also if you think about it, there's only 2 people who know that the Mythosaur's back. Din doesn't know because he wasn't conscious. The only other person that knows is the armorer. So you could look at that 2 ways. That eliminates her from being the spy, because she's the only one who knows that the Mythosaur is there, and she's the only one that knows that could save the Mandalorians if the fight turns. Or if she is the spy, then she could use the Mythosaur for bad. Yeah, I mean, or you just don't fuck with the mythosaur until the end, and then like somebody else discovers it after Bo-Katan's dead, or she like passes that info on to somebody else in her dying breaths. Blah blah blah.
See, I can
yeah, I
see
mean,
it
it's definitely
kind of
gonna
like
come
the
up.
beast that popped up in this episode, and the armor and Bo herself has said like these things are awakening on the planet, letting us know that a new age is being ushered in. I mean, you could also argue that just from the conflict taking place in the bowels of the planet Mandalore, that the mythosaur is just going to fucking come out and start kicking everyone's ass, and Bo or someone tries to tame it and be the rider. Like I don't necessarily see her going to the pool and whistling like, you know, come here, buddy, come here, Sparky, come on, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Look, I got the little black saber sword. Let's go. I could see the beast being a beast and fucking tearing apart the base because they're fucking with his home. And the good Mandalorians are like, you know what? Fuck it. Our ancestors supposedly did this thing. Let's try. And she's the one that successfully mounts to kind of turn the tide. I mean, I could see the mythosaur just eating Gideon's base and just bashing it to bits, if anything. The mythosaur might be a later season thing, but who knows? I mean, yeah, we got.
I mean, it's like later season, as in
later
like
episode, maybe.
next season?
There's been too much smoke around it. Like they got to pay off on that episode 2 deal. So
yeah, I don't know if they would hold it, because after now, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess they could, but like that's a weird. Like if you were gonna hold it, I feel like you would tease it later.
All right, so let's kind of put predictions to bed so we can move on. We're gonna get a big death. Yeah. It's gonna be Bo. But it will be glorious, potentially in sacrifice. Maybe she even dies trying to ride the mythosaur, and she succeeds in the ride, but it kills her, one of those types of things. The New Republic is definitely coming to assist the fleet with an outside chance of Boba showing up just because him and Din are butt buddies, and you never know. Maybe he brings Cobb like Bat's been saying, because they are, they are Din's buddies. Din may be sidelined for a good part of this episode, if not cliffhanger style. You know what I mean? Like steady cliffhanger style. Din probably won't have many heroics in this episode, and if Nick's idea rings true, or whoever brought it up, Din could become an antagonist for a little bit. But things that I'm taking to the bank, at least so I can get a win here or there. Main character death, Bo. New Republic shows up in the nick of time and essentially says, fuck you, Mon Mothma. We're Rogue Squadron. We need to start, checking these warlords a bit more. And I'm also going to say the season ends on a cliffhanger, I hope. I could take that. I know some people don't like it, but the way I felt after Bad Batch season 2 finale, I dig it. I dig kind of having things a bit unresolved, and power players, protagonists kind of still being in a bind. So there you go.
I would really like it if it ended where it's like it's a seeming victory, and then the Chimera pops up, and you're like, "Oh fuck!"
I could do
now
that.
Now it's not a victory.
Now, is that still Stinger style, Nick, or do they fold Thrawn in before the credits?
I would have it after. Okay. Like I would have it like you end the episode on the celebration, the fucking,
and then credits, and then
the episode, and then you see like coming out of hyperspace with its windows fully fixed.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, just got like duct tape on it and some plywood. Or Thrawn's hanging out the side because he can't see through the wood. He's like, "Hey, bitches, I'm back. I made it."
Yeah, he's like out the window. He's like, "Oh, it's me.
I finally made it back after all these goddamn years. It's been what, damn near 20 years. I've been 15 years. I've been gone."
You gotta, at this point, you like, okay, yeah, you've had the Thrawn mention, but like, you really gotta like. You got to tease it harder. Like you have to tease his actual.
I agree. I like your idea.
Ahsoka is in what fucking
August,
5 months, 4 months. Like
that's the perfect reveal. And I don't know if it's seeing him on his vessel, if the vessel even survived. I mean, you gotta remember he's been out there for years and years and years.
Yeah, he's been out
or
for a long time.
Or if it's not even his return. If they just cut the Thrawn, and you get it, like, oh fuck yeah, well. Taking out Gideon, that's really not that big a deal after all, because there he is. There he is. The captain was right. Even though he didn't quite believe in the story he was feeding the rest of the council, he is ready and he is in waiting. All right. The fact that Props keeps saying Bo better not die, Bo better not die. I don't. That's starting to
look, man. I know that he really likes Bo. I mean, and I definitely like. I
just wonder if he knows something. And
there's nobody else that can.
You never know with Props anymore. He could know. He could know, and he's trying to scare us away. I don't know.
Yeah, he's just like, don't think that this is gonna happen. But like, I really don't know. Like if it's like sad, it's like, oh no, sad boy times and stuff like that. It's either Bo or it's
Nick, here's
Grogu,
the other thing.
Because I don't even
Filoni, and I forgot to bring this up, recently he's quoted as saying, like, listen, I think fans will be cheering during the finale. Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Brendan Wayne is just out there like being a dick.
But there were. I wish I had
it.
my Discord open. If anyone's in the Discord, if you could pull up I know I shared a Dave post, maybe in spoiler, but he says something like, "Listen, he's like, I think fans will be cheering because," and I'm paraphrasing. He's like, chess pieces will be moved in such a way that fans should be excited. How's that?
But I think that like if you're not a fan,
Here's what I found.
if you're a fan,
Siri.
if you're a fan, would you not cheer if like you get the Thrawn stinger and you're like,
I know, man.
Yeah!
I mean, that's what I said. It's like, I mean, Dave's quote gave me a bit of solace when you juxtapose it against Brendan Wayne whipping his dick out and pissing all over our faces, but. Yeah, I don't know. Props is just a big fan. He's as worried as everyone else. She just makes the most sense to be the martyr. You know, I mean, her song would be written. They'd be telling tales of Bo-Katan, riding the Mythosaur to retake Mandalore from the Remnant. Who knows? Shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes down. But like to me, it does. Like if we're taking Brendan's word that this is going to be a real heart wrencher, then there's only two characters, in my opinion, that can die, that can really elicit that response. It's Grogu or it's Bo, and they're not going to kill their fucking cash cow. It's just not going to happen. Because I don't even think people would be that upset if Din died. Because like if Din died, what, like, are you really like gonna cry your eyes out because Din's dead? Like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think that he's gonna elicit that type of response.
Not based on how he's been this season, where I mean he has been kind of relegated as lead number 2. Maybe season 2 where we got more of the helmet pop and the emotions coming from him. But I agree with you. I mean, he hasn't had that many. He's kind of fucking stoic right now. You know, like
and it's like. And maybe it's just me because like I've never been like a Din guy. I've always been like the way that you feel about about Cal Kestis. I don't quite feel like
don't
that
you
about Din.
dare!
Don't
you compare Din to Milquetoast? You son of a bitch!
Din is a character that a story is told through. Like there's no story. What's Din's story? Tell me what's the story about Din? There isn't. Like the story, like everything that we've seen in The Mandalorian is the story told through.
Yeah, you're right.
Din.
He is a
But
vehicle. You are right. He is a vehicle.
But there is a story about Bo. Like there is lore and there is history and there's story and there's hinge points in the Star Wars franchise that are completely based around Bo-Katan, whereas like Din is a vehicle for the story that's being told through The Mandalorian. He doesn't have it. His story is, I was rescued and I lived with the Watch.
Right.
That is his story.
And he's honorable, and he became even more honorable when he gave up his career as a bounty hunter to save Grogu.
Yeah. And like he's a good dude. Like that's his story. Like so to me, like if he dies, like even if it was all of his story combined, it's still not like a momentous loss for the galaxy. What, you lost a guy who was like a part-time bounty hunter that like over the last 18 months has become like a cool guy who's trying to help the Mandalorians.
Props got it. Here's the line, Nick, from Filoni. The fans will have a lot to take in. With any good ending, there's a moment you're cheering and you feel satisfied, but then you think back at all the things that happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fucking Bo-Katan's dead as fuck. Like that's what that means.
Yeah. Like, Nick's like, fuck it. He's taking shit to the bank.
Because like
Let's get some receipts.
Because like it's the last line that gives it to you.
Yeah.
Then you think back at all the things that happened.
Right.
Like, what do you think back on with Din if he dies? Like, what do you think back on when he found Grogu? What, 18 months ago?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
That's what I'm
Linda
saying,
brings us up here. I mean, if Din does get taken out, they really have started to position Grogu with Bo. I mean, this episode, he was on her lap flying before. You know, he's been sitting in his pod. I mean, they're homies at this point. But Bo still,
yeah.
And I'm with B-Mad. I mean, a lot of us thought Bo or someone would be more of an antagonist. I mean, that's how they kind of set it up, to be honest, in the marketing. But I mean, I've loved her arc, honestly, and she would be the most earned death if we do lose a man.
Yeah. I mean, storyline wise, if you want, like, if Din didn't get captured and is going to get fucking brain wiped, the best storyline move is to have him sacrifice himself for Bo, knowing that like this is the person that is destined to and should lead the Mandalorians into a bright future. But that's kind of out the window now. I mean, unless you have a moment that goes like this, where like he's fucking mind flayed and he's on their side. Grogu sees it, works some Force juice magic, switches him back at a critical moment when a fight's going down with Bo, and then he sacrifices himself, and then Bo lives. That's the only way that I could see that happening. But again, like, if like, at least for me, again, like this is all for me because I've never been a Din guy. If
it's
because
Nick doesn't collect action figures. That's why he doesn't love Din.
I don't collect action figures, and I just don't look at his story as something that's all that impressive. Like, yeah, the show is great, but the show is not about him. Like the show is about everything that's going on in the galaxy.
You are making a valid point, and I'll kind of round it home for you. What Nick is saying, Din Djarin is the C-3PO and R2-D2 of the Mandoverse, and hear me out. Yeah. And this is from George himself, the story of the OT is told via the droids.
Through their lens.
If you look at every main thing that happens, a droid is always with one of the factions, and that's kind of how we're taken on the adventure. I mean, hell, we follow the droids to Tatooine to meet Luke Skywalker. That's what Nick is saying is correct about the character of Din Djarin. Now, I'm not such a hater on the young foundling guy, because he does look cool as a toy, and he has some of the best. He has some of the best fucking armor in the Mandalorian universe. But Nick is correct. Like we really haven't. The Din isn't bringing this legacy to the table or trying to fulfill a prophecy. He's our not narrator, but he's the one kind of guiding us through the galaxy, therefore getting the full story.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're seeing this galaxy through his lens, and while he is not like, he is building a legacy within the world, like within the Star Wars universe, where people in the universe are like, oh, wow, this is the guy who does like bounty hunter shit, and now he's a Mandalorian and blah, blah, blah. Like, his story is not rich nor deep. Like, there is no substance behind him other than like what we have seen him do in the show.
Until J.J. Abrams makes him a Palpatine.
Yeah, exactly. And then we find out that he was a clone of Palpatine.
Hey, look,
the whole
dude, you talked Justin into joining the I Hate Din Djarin fan club. He's like, I don't care for Din Nick either. You're not alone.
He I mean, I'm glad that I got somebody on my side, because I really do feel alone.
I told you,
where I'm like,
when I devolve when I watch Star Wars, I just have a fucking grin on my face. So if a dude's walking around looking cool as shit, I'm like, yeah, I like that guy.
Because that, like, I've had this in my head for so long, and I'm like, I can't tell Matt that I feel the same way about Din that he feels
it's okay.
about Cal.
I took it well. I mean, that's a low blow to Din. Like that's pretty fucking low to call him milquetoast boy. But hey, I took it all right. I didn't freak out or yell. And listen, you do make very valid points about the character. There's no fucking doubt about it. You know, I mean, if we didn't know that Pedro's lovable face was under there, I mean, he probably loses even more juice as a character. But yeah, I like that. All right, dude. Just for the sake of time, I mean, I love going down rabbit holes with this stuff with you, but I also know you have hard outs to eat. So what we're gonna do, and I don't think anyone's gonna be upset. I mean, this episode of the Star Wars Time Show really was to kind of break down and celebrate Episode 7 and really get ourselves all worked up for this finale coming in a few hours. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut the Bad Batch segment we had planned. We'll save that for next week, or you never know, maybe 2 weeks from now, because I have a feeling, just based on what Dave Filoni's saying, Brendan Wayne's saying, what the fuck we're saying, the finale breakdown next week could be another 3-hour ordeal like we're doing this week. So but either way, we've got a plan. We do want to put Bad Batch season 2 to bed. We got kind of a top 10 moments type of deal. But we're going to move on real quick and get through the fan segment here. Just want to touch on this news, not much to speculate, but I'm a fan of this. The Expanse's Wes Chatham, rumored to be cast in the Ahsoka series and as Thrawn's right-hand dude. If you take that, which is coming from Deadline, and I compared it to a report that Making Star Wars had a while back about who he thought is Thrawn's right-hand man, I'm just throwing it out here right now. Could be potential speculation, spoilers, just in case anyone cares. But I'm thinking Wes Chatham, if he's reported to be playing Thrawn's right-hand man, is going to be playing this character MSW calls Enoch, who he says kind of looks like Destro from G.I. Joe, but golden, and has like samurai flair to his getup. So there's that. But Wes is I at least liked him in The Expanse. I forgot that he was also in Hunger Games, but he's one of the best characters in The Expanse. Which
Hunger Games, he came in the last
like he was one of the in the two bangers, the older kids, right, or the rebels or wherever the fuck they were.
He was a part of the fucking film crew.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was part of the film.
Gotcha.
Crew.
But yeah, if you haven't watched The Expanse, by the way, do yourself a favor and add that to your schedule.
Fantastic.
Also, I don't want to get sidetracked here because of time, but if you are a TNG fan and you haven't started into the final season of Picard yet, get on that too. Man, talk about some great fan service. Love that fucking show. Paramount Plus really has done wonders with the Star Trek franchise over there, at least from all their new TV series. Okay, so that's that. And like I said, next week maybe we'll do our Bad Batch kind of put to bed, or maybe we won't, because
maybe we'll go off on another 3-hour long.
I did not expect that to happen, but hey, man, anytime Nick gets deep in the shit, I know he's engaged, so I was just going to let it roll. And here we go. Props saying this has been a really fun episode. I love all the speculation leading into the episode tonight. Well, for us assholes, it'll be, 4 or 5 in the morning, but I am jealous of the West Coasters that they kind of get to do this midnight watch party with these shows. I know,
if I was on the West Coast, I would be able to catch it before I get to sleep.
Yeah, because for you, it's what, 2 a.m. drop, right, in Central Time?
I think, I think it's 2 or 3.
Because I'm 3 in the East, so you got to be 2.
Okay, so it's 2. It's 2.
Yeah, I can't justify that. And like you, in my 30s, dude, I was almost like vampire, where I'd stay up till 2, 3, sleep till about 9, 10, 11. But these days, once I became the dad, that's over. I'm fully conditioned back to elementary school hours, so I'm usually waking around 6:45, 7, trying to be in bed by 11, midnight at the latest. I feel like such an old putz, but it is what it is. I'll be up bright and early. I'll have my backup alarm set up just in case my Star Wars soul doesn't wake me naturally, but I do not think that's going to be a problem, because I've honestly been thinking about the finale since last Wednesday. Nick, for the first time since we started live streaming, it almost got to the point where I fired up the fucking mic and camera and just went on myself blah, 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 episode 7, blah, 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 blah. But I stopped because I realized I still have a real job and had to get some work done. Yeah, Brando, I'm with you, buddy. I'll probably be watching around 5:30, 6 a.m. Matt will look mind-flayed. I always do. I'm bald and old. All right, people, let's end this episode with this week's fan segment. You know how we always do it. We do the question of the week, and then we do the top 5 Star Wars fan artist features. The way to get involved in question of the week is easy. You just got to be paying attention at Star Wars Time Show on Instagram on Tuesdays. Look in our stories, look in our profile for the prompt. Leave your thoughts, and we might pick them up. And by might, it's usually going to happen because not that many people comment. So let me get some things switched around here real quick so we can do the question of the week. We need to go back to our... There we are. Look how pretty we look. Still choppy, but looking good. All right, here comes question of the week. And that's not the right Slack screen. But there we go. All right. So what was your favorite or least favorite part from The Mandalorian, The Spies? The one with the tense ending. And up first, it's Boss Spencer. Best and worst moments. All right. Was fantastic. Love the progression of the story and what's about to happen. Grogu's got his voice. Love that he is growing as an individual and little leader himself. And no, I don't have Tourette's. I try to read these as written. Okay. Sea monsters and Mando semen. What's he talking about? Is he talking about like Mando jizz there? I know what he's talking about. I'm in the gutter. That's why. Mark my words, the mythosaur is going to be bigger fish, that monster. Least favorite moment, could tell where the volume was used quite a bit. Yeah, those.
I don't know if I just don't I can't tell. Or maybe I'm just like not paying attention.
I don't know. Honestly, I feel like all modern CG is starting to look like shit again, like very noticeable. Just go watch Ant-Man the Wasp is all I'm saying. But where I notice it the most, Nick, is when they are on the surface of Mandalore. That's where it's, to me, kind of a very stark reminder that they're on a set. But it's nothing that takes me out of the fucking universe or anything.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Spa.
Okay.
Up next, Chris Z. Favorite Paz Vizsla's Last Stand. Short and sweet. We appreciate you, Chris Z. Count. Go for it. This is the Star Wars foe. I don't have the full name, so who knows?
Pho.
Something.
Pho is good, man. Go get yourself a bowl of pho. Never had it.
If we're not including the Paz scene, probably the Shadow Council and the laser gates Gideon went through. I like it. Also, top moments I had myself. Star Wars foe. And there you go, Nick. I'll let you read the traditions.
All right. All right. Kicking it off from Fezikel 73. Least favorite part of The Mandalorian has been season 3, which that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And then Star Wars props.
Oh, here
Justin
we go.
In the chat says, my favorite part was Bo-Katan cutting a hole in the wall for everyone to leave. My least favorite part was the fact she made the hole too small for big Paz to fit, so he had to stay behind and die. That was kind of an inconsiderate
if you look back,
Paz.
he's like, yo,
honestly,
do you see this? Do you see this? All right, fine. I'll sacrifice myself.
Yeah. I know that she's working with limited time, but man, you could have made it a little bit bigger.
Boy.
Slide his fat ass out of there. Good stuff. SW props. And then Ted 5 standing by says, favorite part was how the tension and dread was built up during Paz's final stand, the emergence of the Praetorian Guards and his determination to meet them head on with his bucket held high. Yeah, man. I mean, he went out like a hero for sure. Last stand of Paz Vizsla will be told in the annals of history of
Songs
Mandalorians
from
forever.
Eons past. Isn't that what she say?
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out how this fucking frame rate thing got so screwed. Looks like I got some work to do tomorrow. All right, so switching gears back to the top 5. Okay, Nick, go ahead and introduce the top 5 while I fuck around with some scene switches here.
So top 5, if you want to get involved in this segment of our show, make sure to tag Star Wars Time on all of your Instagram posts or your that are Star Wars art related. Also at Star Wars Time Show and hashtag Star Wars Time Show. I think that we have so many hashtag Star Wars Time Shows on our on the Instagram
154,000.
We're almost, I would say we're over 100,000 for sure. See that? So keep using it. Hashtag Star Wars Time Show on your posts. Tag Star Wars Time Show to make sure that you get seen and you get considered for a feature. All right, so kick this thing off. First up for the top 5 this week is at Umbra Toy Photos. And we have a fantastic Andor shot here. We see our good friend Luthen Rael and then his good friend Mr. Cassian Andor making their way through Imperial occupied. I assume that this is Imperial occupied Coruscant, because it seems like we're in the underworld section of Coruscant here. It looks very similar. Yeah, it looks very similar to what we saw in the opening shot of Mando with Kane talking to the IPD. So, no, it's just a fun, cool, colorful shot from an Andor perspective here from Umbra Toy Photos.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, this account right here, Nick, they're really starting to excel at these, I guess I would call world-building shots with action figures. You know, it's not just an action scene. It's not just a portrait like I like to get into. It's a full universe. I mean, there are layers to these shots that Umbra Toy Photos puts out. So, kudos to that pick, because this one's pretty legit. And really, they've had some, like I said, just great full-on scenes these past few weeks.
Yeah, killer stuff. I mean, I think the most recent post is incredible. You see Luke Skywalker, ROTJ Luke, sitting there on a battlefield with a Dark Trooper behind him and an IPD. I mean, like, it's very good, like scenic, cinematic type of shots that you get from Umbra Toy Photos. All right, next up is a shot that we're not likely to see because she is a traitor, but this is from at Lionworks on Instagram, and we see the armor here laying her hammer into an Imperial stormtrooper. Just a super clean shot. The armor always looks cool because of her kit and her getup in toy form. Excellent posing here by Lionworks as well, really getting to see the hammer kind of hitting the neck, and then her holding the tongs in the back too, and good pose here as the stormtrooper drops his weapon on the ground. So just
I'm hoping we see some toy photography with her holding blasters soon, so we can pay off on that leak again. You know, I'm all, you got to pay off, so the Reddit gods keep us featured if we ever get more
specifically
more leaks.
An Imperial blaster, because we know that she's a traitor and that she's going to pick up an Imperial blaster. Good shit at Lionworks on Instagram. Next up is at Bins Toy Photography _, and this is a super clean shot here of newly minted Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker, making his entrance into. It seems like he's making his entrance into the Jedi Temple to go have himself a youngling barbecue. What I'm confused about in this shot, Matt, maybe you could clarify this for. Why is one of his boys just like sitting on the ground? And not
sure. I can explain this for you, Nick. It's
okay.
You know, Anakin. He at this point he's a little angry, kind of dicky. So he made all the clones walk from their barracks to the Jedi Temple. And that guy's like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I've had enough. And he's just, he's like, I got to take a break. So he's just sitting down, catching his breath.
This was the first clone dissenter when Anakin's like, we're going to go kill all the kids. He's like, nah, man.
He's like, fuck it. Yeah, he got in there. He's like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm just going to take a seat. But yeah, I see what you're saying, but I still like the shot. But it is kind of like,
it is a bit.
What, would this guy like just fucking keel over the moment they walked in the door or what?
Yeah, he got caught with a stray immediately. This was like as soon as they walked through the door, one of the masters was like, "Oh shit!" He caught this guy.
He's like the first.
Yeah, he caught this.
He's like the first poor soul on the storming of Normandy. As soon as the ramp dropped, you know,
the door.
Yeah, he takes the shot. There you go. That's what it is.
Yeah, he's dead immediately.
That brave motherfucker ate it.
Overall, I mean, like, what really drew me to this is he caught Anakin's face really well in this shot. I think he did a really good job.
I like how it's framed, the kind of the lighting there, allowing the shadows to come in on the right side. Yeah, it was good stuff. I mean, I am trying to find. I know in the past I said that I post only stuff that I love, but I am trying to, poach out a few new accounts we don't see all the time, give them a little bit of juice. And that would be Ben's Toy Photography _.
There we go. Good stuff. Number 4 in the top 5, but again, these are in no particular rank order, is at South P24. South P24 is one of our favorites here, of course. We see Din and Bo Katan, potentially for the last time, because Bo's going to die in the next episode, surrounded by a bunch of B1 battle droids. You see it seems like a K2 droid there, an Imperial security droid. You see 4-LOM there, or a 4-LOM type droid, as well as one of the sail barge droids, just surrounded by droids, and Gonk, of course, getting ready to go to battle in the middle of a cantina. Well, I guess it just seems kinda, like South P.
It's like last week, man, on Plazier 15, we're in the droid bar, and this is, I guess it's a reimagining of that scene to where, you know, Bo and Din's, their interrogations, the whole good cop, bad cop didn't quite work out the right way, and the droids get a little up in arms over having some meat bags in their establishment.
Indeed. So I like how he jammed so many different droids in here. You even have Dio. Yep. You got Dio. You got the K2, sail barge droid. You got IG-11.
99.
You got
back
K2.
There.
Yep. You got all. You got the whole gang.
Death Star droid. Oh. Yeah, it's good shit. I mean, really, if you look at these figures, Nick, notice the soft goods. These, as we've talked before and have featured, South P is like a master craftsman at making 1/12 scale Hot Toys figures, and that's what you're seeing right here. These are both customs, meant to look like Hot Toys, but they are, you know, they're a 6-inch figure. It's pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, good stuff here at South P24 on the Instagram. And then our final shot for the top 5 this week is at collectors.orbit on Instagram. We have an awesome crossover. I always love when we have these crossover kind of like universe mashing shots. And what we see here is our favorite clones. You see you see Rex, and then who's the one in the back? Like, we got Rex in the front, and then is that a named clone like right behind him? Because the 2 flankers are just like normal guys,
might
right?
Be Jesse back there.
It's hard to tell in the back, but it definitely is Rex up front. And they're fighting off just a whole gaggle of xenomorphs. Yeah, xenomorphs coming from the side, xenomorphs coming from the front. It's almost like if Alien versus Predator, the first AVP, instead of having Predators, it was clone troopers.
I would buy that. I'd watch that
all
shit.
These things down.
Hey, and like we said, thanks to the comics, recent, maybe within the last year or two, Alien, Predator, and Star Wars is a shared universe.
All the same universe.
I'll never forget that comic. It was like some Imperial antiquities dealer, not named Luthen Rael, and he literally had a Xeno skull and a Predator mask in his collection. So enough said. It's real. Good
shit. Well, make sure you follow at Collectors Orbit on Instagram. That is the end of the top 5. And that's the end of our show for this week. It was a long one. It was a very deep Mando discussion and deconstruction. And I guarantee you that everything that we speculated will be correct in the episode that will air tomorrow.
He's right. I mean, when it just comes to the pre-episode speculations, I think we've been pretty damn spot on. And we'll revisit our preseason wants and wishes and predictions. I think that's always fun to kind of look and see how far off we were and where things ended up. So we'll have that coming up for you on the next episode of the Star Wars Time Show. You never know. Like I said, this week wasn't expecting to spend this much time on episode 7, but I'm glad we did. It was good shit. We got to kind of go through the full gamut of the episode itself and how it sets up this finale that we're all frothing at the mouth to watch as soon as possible. I mean, it's 7:45 here, East Coast time. That means I'm closer and closer and closer to my natural wake-up call. But it's time to go. It's time to go. My computer's blowing up. Frame rates are dropping too much. I really thought I was going to have a smooth presentation this week, but it's not the case. So, hey, we love you for sticking with our jaggy looking broadcasts. But what we need you to do at this point in time is get your happy asses over to StarWarsTime.net. Check out the site. We do put up some content through there throughout the week in between shows. And it's really your best place to go on the internet to get linked in, hooked into. We want your hooks into us. So get over there, StarWarsTime.net. Sub to the podcast. All right. Even if you just watch the live stream, we'd love for you to sub to one of the podcast platforms. And more importantly, once you do that, leave a rating and review. All right. If you haven't done that yet and you're listening right now, I'm telling you, it's going to take 30 seconds. You'll be doing us a solid. Rate and review on the podcast platforms. And like our friend Linda is saying here in the live stream chat, make sure to hit that like button on the stream. Leave a comment. Save it. Clip it. We'd really love for you all to start clipping the content. If we say something extra stupid or extra wise, go ahead and shout it on top of the mountaintops to everyone that you think would give a rat's ass. Like Devin's saying right here, look, everyone read this on the stream. He just told some more buddies to watch the show today. That's what we're asking for, okay? So keep it up. There's always time for Star Wars Time. Don't forget, StarWarsTime.net. Hit it, browse around, sub to those podcasts, do what you got to do. There's always time for Star Wars Time. That's all you got to keep telling yourself. And if someone says, why would we want to tune into the Star Wars Time show? Okay, ready? What do you say? Well, because there's always time for Star Wars Time. All right? And don't forget, my friends, if you listen to the Star Wars Time show, the Force will be with you, you, and you, always.